May be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Robinson, the defendant is your son and the co-defendant his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that you gave your son money in February of this year to purchase a used car. According to you, your son told you that you needed a new car. Your son told you a friend of his was selling his car. According to you, you got some income tax money back. You gave him the cash to buy the car.
Yes.
How much cash did you give him?
$2,000.
Do you have any proof that you gave him $2,000?
Yes, I have receipts where I took it out of the bank.
I'd like to see that.
It shows where my income tax is in the bank. Where I took money out. I actually took $3,000 out of the bank, but I gave him the $2,000.
What kind of car was your friend selling?
Chevy Blazer, ma'am.
What's your friend's name?
Zachary Chapman.
How do you know him?
He's been a good client of mine. I own a local tattoo studio and a good family friend.
Who is this?
This is Zachary Chapman right here.
This is the person who you purchased the car from?
No, ma'am.
Who did you purchase the car from?
My friend Raymond.
Just for my own information, what did you bring him for?
I have a counterclaim. He's my witness on that counterclaim.
Okay. So you gave him $2,000?
Yes, ma'am.
And the car was bought from his friend Raymond?
Yes.
On what date?
I gave him the money on February 2nd, and Raymond didn't actually have the car down to me till in March because he wanted to make sure, everything on it worked fine.
March
and
what?
I'd say around March 5th in that area.
So a month later?
Yeah.
And did you have the car ever since?
No.
Did you have the car in the month of March?
Yeah, I picked it up when Michael said it was
in
there.
In March?
Yes. Yes.
Continuously?
Yes. I even have the spare key to it.
Did you have it in May?
Yes.
Did you have it in June?
Yes.
What about July?
Yes, I had it in July also.
Did you insure the car?
No, because it wasn't in my name.
Did you insure the car?
No, ma'am.
The answer is no.
No, ma'am.
So you were driving an uninsured car?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it legal to drive an uninsured car in your state?
No.
Well, then you shouldn't have been driving it, because this is your story. Your story is that you gave your son the $2,000 to purchase a car. I don't know how much he paid Raymond for the car, but according to you, your son told you...
It was the $2,000, yeah. I gave the money was for Raymond, and then when I handed it to Michael, Michael said, Raymond said I could borrow $500 of the $2,000 you just gave me because I'm going to buy a motorcycle. And I said, then that's between you and Raymond, so.
Okay. Now, did you look up the Blue Book value of this car? You didn't know anything about it? Okay, so you drove the car for a while, and then you had an argument with your son or your son and his wife?
With my son.
About what?
He had called my mother and asked her to borrow more money. Once again, he's borrowed a lot of money off my mother. Anyways, he wanted to supposedly go get emergency custody for his son. So my mom, when she sends money, she'll put it in my bank account for him because she lives far away from us. Well, anyways, he called, he said, did Grandma send that money? And I said, yes. And I said, but I'll be down after I get the mail because our other friend was supposed to be getting an apartment behind his tattoo shop, which I helped clean out. I said, I'm waiting on the mail for her to send that money order because she wants to pay the landlord the money. And he got angry because I wouldn't just jump up and go to the bank and give him that money, and because the money order was wrote out and it wasn't for what he thought it was.
So you had an argument with him?
A big argument, yes.
And when you finally got this car back in March 5th,
right,
according to you, you found that the car was titled in his wife's name.
Right.
Did he explain why to you?
No, he just said, I wanted to surprise you, and they went and they had it already titled before I even knew the car was there. And then he
was where?
At his house.
So you picked it up from his house?
Yes.
And then you say that he asked you if he could take out a title loan on the car.
Because he wanted to open his tattoo shop.
So before March, he didn't have a tattoo shop?
No, he didn't have no kind of income at all except for his wife's son's SSI check.
Were you working prior to March?
No.
No. Where were you working prior to March?
I was working at Bootleg Tattoo Studio in Zanesville, Ohio.
Were you paid by check or cash?
Cash, ma'am. 50% commission on every piece of art that I did.
So you didn't have a full-time job?
Yes, ma'am. It was full-time. Yes, ma'am.
How much were you paid in cash off the books by the tattoo owner?
Within a month of February, I've made around roughly $8,000.
You made $8,000 in cash in February.
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you make in January?
I haven't thought back that far, ma'am. But I was working at Bootleg Tattoo Studio. But I know in the month of February, that's what I made. I made enough to open up my new tattoo studio.
Was that what you usually made in a month?
No, it grosses, ma'am, from month to month,
Well,
depending on how many clients, if it was a good or slow month.
I understand what you're saying to me, but I want to go back. We're not talking so far.
Yes, ma'am.
So far back. How long had you been working at this tattoo studio?
I worked at that particular tattoo studio for around 2-3 months before I opened up my own in June.
So did you work there around Christmas time?
Last year, yes, ma'am.
What about in November, Thanksgiving time?
I worked at another tattoo studio. It was Twisted Fate Tattoos in Lancaster.
And how much did you make there?
I worked there for around 7 to 8 months. I made around $32,000. It was on books, on file.
Okay, so the only 2 months that you worked in 2015 off the books were November and December.
Yes, ma'am.
And in February, I was off the books
Yes, ma'am.
in cash.
Yes, ma'am. I filed my taxes upon it, too. I file taxes twice a year instead of once because now I'm a business owner, so I got to keep everything.
I understand now you're a business owner. I'm just wondering about the $8,000 in cash that you earned in February.
Yes, I file my personal taxes every 6 months, too, because I have to pay state.
You don't file personal taxes every 6 months.
No, I don't.
Nobody files personal taxes every 6 months.
I don't get a refund every 6 months. I just file to file. I file under the table what I made under the table, which would be cash from my job.
Okay, great. You and not one other human being on the planet. So you are unique, Mr. Thompson. Okay. Now, at some point after this argument that you had with your son, he sent the police to your house to retrieve the car.
Yes.
What month
It was September.
of this year?
Yes.
So you would have the car March, April, May, June, July, and August, 6 months.
Yes.
Did they retrieve the car?
Yes.
And the car is now in your possession?
Yes, ma'am. The title ain't in our possession right now. Me and my wife, it's not. Because of the previous title loan, it has a lien on the title. But yes,
Well,
we do
you
have
took out
possession.
the title loan.
Yes, Rochelle, my wife, took out the title loan.
No, Rochelle did.
It's in my wife's name now. Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Now, when you took out the title loan, how much money did you take out?
We got $357, I believe.
And on what date did you take out the title loan?
I have the paper and our... It's that one right there. It was July 3rd of 2015.
And on what date did you send the police to take the car back?
September 8th.
8th.
And on what date did you have a fight with your mother?
I had the fight September the 8th is when the argument started, ma'am, over text messaging.
Yes.
September the 6th, I'd asked Mrs. Thompson if you guys paid that loan off so we can go get this car put back in my name so I can get it insured and everything. And she states to me, no, I forgot. And then September 8th, it's took.
Okay. Now, you want to tell me your story, Mr. Thompson?
My counterclaim story, or the story on this case with my
I
mother.
want you to tell
Yes,
me
ma'am.
your story with regard to the car.
Okay. It's around February. Yes, my mom got her income taxes back, but like every year, she gives me and my brother money. My brother's not home right now. He's recently incarcerated.
Listen to me. Tell me about the car.
I had a friend, Raymond, him and his mother were selling the vehicle. There were some repairs that needed to be made on it. Raymond is a good client of mine. He made me a deal on the car. My mom needed a new vehicle because her previous one has gotten repoed for a title loan, and I've had a vehicle myself.
Would you just tell me about the car?
Yes, ma'am.
So Raymond is selling the car.
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
mother got her tax money back.
Yeah.
And
She didn't give me money for the vehicle. I purchased the vehicle personally off
how
of
much
Raymond.
money did she give you?
She gave me $2,000.
Because
Not of the vehicle. She gives me money every year for tax season.
why? If you're making $8,000 a month, why would you take $2,000 from your mother?
Ma'am, it's been like
Just a
that since
second.
I was a kid.
If you make $8,000 and she doesn't have enough money to make sure her car isn't repossessed, why would you take $2,000 from her?
Just accepted money from her. I mean, it's been like this since I was a kid. All extra money. I like the extra money, man. Everybody does.
Anything else?
Yes.
Anything
yes.
else? You have any proof that you want to show me that this $2,000 was a gift to you?
No, ma'am. I mean, there would be no
All
proof.
I asked you is, do you have any proof that the $2,000 that your mother gave you in February when you were making $8,000 in cash under the table because her car had been repossessed for non-payment was a gift to you? Show me the proof.
I don't have proof of the vehicle,
Good.
ma'am.
Perfect.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Her son, Michael Thompson, and his wife, Debbie, stole her SUV.
The defendants are countersuing for an unpaid title loan.
And the harassment that you are alleging that this person is going to be a witness to is that your mother has been bad-mouthing you because of this problem with the car that you had the police go and take from her. She's been bad-mouthing you and your business on Facebook. Is that what you're going to testify to?
Yes,
I was personally harassed by these people, and I have nothing to do with them. I bought a vehicle.
Great. Then you should file a case. Then you can sit down. File your own case. Anything else? Not necessary.
See, please.
This is your son, Mr. Poland, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old is he?
He's 25.
Who else lives with you other than your son?
Just the two of us.
Are you still living in a property that's owned by Mr. Valdez?
Yes, I am.
When did you move into his property?
I believe it was about October of 2014.
When did you stop paying rent?
I didn't stop paying rent. I had a vehicle that was stolen in December, and it set us back, and that's when we first started getting behind.
I said, when did you stop paying rent? I don't care whether your vehicle was stolen or anything else. When did you stop paying rent? Did you pay rent last month?
Actually, I did work for him to make up for the rent. He owed me
So
money.
the answer is you did not pay him any rent.
Well, that's a form of paying him.
Did you pay him any rent the month before?
Yes.
How much?
Well, the last time I paid any cash was, it looks like it was on September 9th of 2015. I paid $1,250 cash. And also, there were payments that he hadn't recorded. There were 4 payments there that he...
So the last time that you paid him any cash rent was September of 2015?
That's correct.
Mr. Valdez, did Mr. Poland do any work for you?
Yes, he did do some work for me.
Tell me what kind of work he did for you and when.
Well, I have a swimming pool at my house, and he was supposed to do some work at my swimming pool electrical unit. And unfortunately, it was a really shabby job, and I had to get another electrical contractor to come out and do it.
Now, what made you hire him to do electrical work in your pool?
Well, he indicated to me that he was an electrician and he could handle the job, which of course he couldn't. But by the same token, Your Honor, this gentleman is not the tenant. His son is the tenant, not his father.
But his father lives with him.
Your Honor, the contract indicates that there are to be no other individuals other than Mr. Poland Jr.
Well, clearly you knew that he was living there if you hired him to do electrical work in your pool, Mr. Valdez.
I thought that he was...
Clearly you knew that he was living there.
No, I didn't. I knew that he was there from time to time because they have a joint work business together.
What kind of work?
We do property maintenance.
For whom?
I work for my father.
You work for your father, and your father does property maintenance. For whom?
My 2 biggest accounts are Golden State Financial and Royalty Management.
Did you work for them last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get a form indicating how much they paid you because you have to start paying your taxes
Yes.
and those?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you earn from them last year?
It was about $45,000, the 2 of us combined.
For you and your son?
Yes.
And what's your rent at the Valdez?
$825 a month.
But the lease is in your name?
Yes.
Now, what violation do you allege, Mr. Valdez, that the Polands committed which caused you to evict them?
Well, there were several things. First of all, they failed to pay rent, and I have a schedule here.
Clearly, they did not pay rent. You did not pay rent either after September. Is that true?
Yes.
Fine. So, on what date did you move to evict them?
I believe it was in September of October.
Well, you hired him to do work for you in October.
Right.
Well, why would you have hired him to do work for you if you were going to evict
Well,
him?
he guaranteed to me that he could do the work.
I don't care about that. Why would you move to evict him the same month that you hired him, is my question.
Because he promised me that he would pay me, and then he didn't.
Pay you what?
He would pay me rent, and
Just
he
a
didn't
second.
pay me.
He paid you in September.
Your Honor, he owed $6,800, and I have the schedule here to show the amount of money he owed.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is that he owed you $6,800, but he gave you $1,200.
Yes, so we're deducting the $1,250 from the $6,800, and the balance is what he owes me.
Okay. I don't have a counterclaim for that.
I have the information here, Your Honor.
I don't care whether you have it there or not. You didn't file a counterclaim.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So what you're telling me is that the $1,200 was sort of to keep you at bay because they owed you more. Why hadn't you been paying rent regularly? Yep, not you.
Oh.
Him.
I hadn't paid rent after that because of the work that my father had done.
No. At that point, in October, you owed him $6,800. Why had you gotten so far behind in the rent?
Your Honor, his bookkeeping was off, and
I'll look at your bookkeeping. Show me for all the time that you were there.
Okay.
Show me the receipts of what you paid him.
When we went in, Your Honor, in September, also he had 3 other payments that...
How much did you owe him in September?
Actually, I owed him $1,250 in September. That was everything paid after he gave the other credits. He was missing a payment for $740, a payment for $400, and a payment for $1,250 that he didn't record in addition to that $1,250 I gave him that day.
Now, you went to housing court, is that right?
Yes.
When did you go to housing court?
The first time was in October.
When did you go the second time to housing court?
Oh, I've got it all right here. Okay, the first time...
Just a second. Mr. Poland, you're the tenant. When was the second time you went to housing court?
is it okay if I look at these, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Second time we went to court was on 11/4, Your Honor. 11/4.
That was the second time.
Yes.
When you went to housing court, because the case is a simple case.
That was
The
11,
case
or that
says
was
that he
10/7.
illegally evicted you. You're back in the house now, but during that brief period of time when you were evicted, he disposed of some of your property.
Yes, Your Honor.
And so that's what you're suing for.
Yes.
So when you went to housing court, you went over all the bills. And how much were you advised in housing court that you owed Mr. Valdez?
Nothing.
Do you have any evidence to the contrary, Mr. Valdez, that would indicate that they owed you any money?
Your Honor, the way it works in court in Kern County is that you can't ask for money the first time around. You have to ask for it afterwards. All I wanted was possession of the property at that time, and so that's what I was asking. I was prepared to go back afterward and ask for a money claim.
Just a second. Did they pay you rent in November?
No.
You have proof you paid in November?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Did you pay in December?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Did you pay in January?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Well, is there a reason for that?
Pretty much it all involves the wrongful eviction that he put me through, and all the money it's cost me to take care of that after the process.
Well, you tell me what money it's cost you. Did you hire a lawyer?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Tell me what money it cost you.
I had to rent and stay in a motel for a week after I was wrongfully evicted.
I don't care.
My dog...
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
You're living in his property now.
Yes.
You asked the court to put you back in the property.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the court said, right now, because he didn't go through the process correctly, I'm ordering you back into your home. That's what the court said?
No, Your Honor.
Well, that's what you say here in your complaint. You say in your complaint...
I said he lied and tricked us.
You say in your complaint...
That came out of the judge's mouth.
Just a second. You state in your complaint, the judge reprimanded the defendant, and I was given back possession of the home on October 7th. That's what you say.
Yes.
I was reprimanded the defendant for not having gone through proper procedures to evict you for whatever he did. My question to you is, now you're back in your home.
Yes.
Why aren't you paying rent?
Because we're already paid up on the rent. If you take the payments we've made, he didn't credit us, and...
You didn't make your son, who was the tenant, didn't pay rent last month, didn't pay rent this month, didn't pay rent the month before or the month before.
If you take all these payments that I've made and what he owes me, which the judge told him he was to pay me for the work that was done too, and or credit it toward rent.
Just a second. I want to see that order.
Going into...
I'd like to see that order.
Oh, sure.
I'd like to see it. Don't say just show me in the order.
Okay. Here's where he gave...
Just a second. I'd like to see it.
Ordered him to get...
I can read.
Okay.
This doesn't say that he's supposed to give you anything. He says you were supposed to meet on November 16th, 2015 at 1:30 p.m. in Department 12. That's what it says. And it says you were supposed to have an accounting with all rent due, all rent paid, and credits owed to the defendant. And you're ordered to appear on November 16th. What happened on November 16th?
We had a different judge.
We appeared in court, Your Honor.
And
we had a different judge this time. It was a sit-in judge.
What happened on November 16th?
She granted possession of the property back to Mr. Valdez.
Granted it back to Mr. Valdez?
Yes.
Because we said we were moving
just
anyway.
a sec. Hey! So the judge granted the property back to Mr. Valdez. You are now staying there and not paying rent. I'm just getting the story straight. Is that Not talking to you.
Uh-huh. Okay.
See that? You're not the tenant.
And his son Alexander claim former landlord Dennis Valdez owes for the return of rent and property. Dennis says the plaintiffs had been evicted, so his workers disposed of their belongings.
Now, when you went the first time and the judge ordered you back to the property, did Mr. Valdez allow you back into the property? The answer is yes, because you live there. Yes. And you're still living there, right?
Yes.
So he followed the judge's order.
Not
No, just a second. He followed the judge's order. Now, the judge on November 16th ordered you, you're the tenant, out of the house. So you decided not to abide by the judge's order.
No, we abided by the judge's order.
So, hey, I'm not talking to you.
Okay, well...
I'm not talking to you. Okay. He's the tenant.
Okay. If you tell her to.
Am I correct that you and your father told me that you're still living in Mr. Valdez's home?
Yes,
when
Your
we
Honor.
started? And we are now 3 months past November 16th. Well, my calendar says we're 3 months past November 16th. If you're living on Pluto, maybe it's not the same calendar.
She didn't make that ruling on November 16th.
Listen to me. That's what the tenant told me.
That's
you're not
not
the
true.
tenant.
That's
Show
not
me
true.
something else.
I'll show you on that piece of paper.
No, show me the order on November 16th.
There was no order on
Yes, there
November
was.
16th.
According to the tenant, there was an order. And you haven't paid rent. And your case is dismissed. You're a squatter living in his house. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The reason that we're here is because the
Yes, some property was stolen from me.
tenant sued me for $10,000 for a marijuana plant.
I had a couple marijuana plants that were stolen and some tools.
And they should have been arrested for having that kind of a marijuana plant at their location.
I just won't trust anybody.
It's fine.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ramey versus Pickens. Step forward.
Anthony Ramey is suing his former housekeeper, Yvetta Pickens, for stealing money from him.
Mr. Ramey, it is your claim that the defendant, who did some housekeeping duties in your home for a period of time, stole money from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you allege she stole this money over a considerable period of time or a one-shot deal?
She was working for me like 2 years. Everything been going good and fine, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, she stopped paying my rent.
Well, how would you give her the money to pay your rent?
I get a direct express card, and I put my Social Security check on there.
Well, then how would she steal it?
I give it to her to pay my rent because I come in and out the hospital. So she usually pay my rent and my bills, and she usually,
So you gave her the card?
Yes.
And explained how this card works?
You put it in the machine, and you take money off of it.
And you just gave her the card?
Yes.
How much money was on the card every month?
$800. She'll use the card to pay my bills.
Was that the arrangement that you had with her, that she would pay your rent?
Yes. We had that because after I started having seizures real bad, I was in and out the hospital. And she agreed upon, she would take care of the house while I'm gone sometimes and everything.
And pay your rent?
And pay my rent, too.
And then, from what I read in your complaint, you got a notification from your landlord that they were evicting you for non-payment of rent. Do you have that with you?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. How did you find her, by the way?
Through a mutual friend.
How much did she make an hour?
She made $10 an hour.
And how did you pay her?
I pay her cash.
Okay, so your rent wasn't paid since June, July,
yes,
August?
Yes, ma'am.
September, October, and this was sent to you in November?
Yes.
Did you pay your landlord?
No.
Were you evicted?
No.
You still there?
Yes.
You haven't paid him since?
I paid him for December. I paid him for this month. When I found out I had eviction notice on my door, that's when I paid. I paid for December.
How long have you lived in that house?
3 years.
Who owns the house?
My witness, Mr.
You own
Martin.
the house? Could you stand up?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Anthony Ramey says former housekeeper Yvetta Pickens stole money from him. Yvetta denies the charge.
Did you have a lease with Mr. Ramey?
Yes, ma'am.
His rent was?
$500 a month.
Do you know of any time that Mr. Ramey was not living there because he was ill?
Well, I was aware he'd been in and out of the hospital due to his seizures or whatever going on, and that's why I feel like I'll be a little bit lenient with him and I'll work with him.
Do you know who this lady is?
Yes, I've received money from her for the past 2 years. I've been receiving the rent from her up until June was the last time she paid me, June 1st of 2015.
What happened in July?
Your Honor.
What happened in July?
I paid the rent in July.
And August?
August as well.
September?
September also.
Interesting. You say, I never had access to his finances. Well, if you never had access to his finances, then how do you pay his rent?
I didn't have direct access.
Well, then how did you pay his rent?
He would give me money.
What happened when he was in the hospital?
I didn't receive any money.
Did she pay you the rent over a 2-year period?
Yes, the last time I received any money from her was June 1st, 2015. Before that, she was always the money was always on time.
So then I'm coming back to you with my question. What happened in July?
I paid the rent in July.
He says you didn't. He says you didn't pay it in July, August, September, or October.
I'm saying I did.
Okay, good.
November either.
November either, yeah. Charging for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all. We're done.
All these are excuses. You may step out.
I never had direct access to his money.
The decision was perfect.
If you accuse me of taking from you, there's no need for me to keep working for you. But we're still...
Be seated.
Your last name is?
Hay.
Mr. Hay, how long do you know the defendant?
Probably close to 30 years.
And what was your relationship with her?
Just a friend.
This is your girlfriend?
That's correct.
How long have you been together?
Since 2010.
There was a period recently when you were not together, you and your girlfriend?
We had rough times, yes.
Recently? I'm talking about the recent past.
If recent is within the last 2 years, yes.
Yes. Tell me when that period was.
I want to say, what year are we in?
No. Don't ask her any questions, especially if you have to ask her what year we're in. Give me a month and year.
2013.
So since 2013, you and your girlfriend have not had any breakups?
Since 2013, we have not.
Do you live together?
We do, and we had during that time as well.
There came a time, according to you, that you loaned a car to the defendant.
That's correct.
Whose car was it?
It was myself and Lawson's car.
Who is it titled to?
To the both of us.
Did you discuss with Miss Lawson loaning the car to the defendant?
I did. I told her that I was taking it to loan it to Miss Stout.
Did she approve of that?
Not so well.
Right, I wouldn't. You could understand that.
Absolutely.
And did you have words about it?
Absolutely.
That's why I was asking you. I read the complaint. And you have a car together. You're living together since 2010, and you're going to lend your car to a friend of yours for 30 years, a female friend of yours who was single, I assume.
As far as I know, she was with somebody.
She's single.
Okay.
So were you.
Not during that time.
Single? Yes, you were single. You were either single or married. See, they don't have, on applications, they have single, married, separated, widowed, widower, or divorced.
Okay.
Those are your statuses.
Okay. Single.
You are very single.
Thank you.
She's willing to tolerate that? Good for you. But I wouldn't like it if my boyfriend of 6 years loaned a car that's at least half mine to another girl.
Understood.
But you did it anyway.
Yes, I did.
Tell me why.
I did it because Miss Stout was in need of a vehicle. I had other vehicles that would allow my household to do what we needed to do. Plus, during this time, I wanted the car out of my name.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So you wanted the car out of your name. Why?
Well, we were having issues, like I said, prior to that, and I wanted to lose the attachment to the vehicle during that time.
Mr. Hay, that sounded like a whole bunch of goulash to me.
Okay.
I mean, you're not a married couple. How do you get it out of your name? Did you take the title out of your name?
That's what we eventually did.
You did?
We traded it in to purchase, or she traded it in to get it out of my name per my request.
You want to explain this to me, Miss Lawson? Because I'm not going to get a legitimate answer from him. Maybe I won't get one from you either. But don't try my patience. So try to give me something that is truthful so that I can accept it. Now, he loaned the car allegedly to the defendant on what date?
On July 26th of 2015.
And how long did she have the car?
4 weeks.
And you knew she had the car?
Yes.
And what did you do after she returned the car?
Within the next 2 weeks, I had traded it in for a brand new Toyota Camry.
And in whose name is the Camry?
Mine.
Alone?
Yes.
Is he going through a bankruptcy?
No.
Well, explain to me why. Did he not want the loan in his name? Just explain it to me.
When we went through hard times, we had several vehicles that were tied to both of us. and we wanted them separate. We got back together. He has a vehicle in his name solely. I have one in my name, and then we have one in both of our names.
What is your complaint about her, Miss Lawson? Why are you here today?
There's some fees that are owed and a rental car fees that are owed that she didn't pay and hasn't paid, and she neglected to pay them. So they've gone into collections. They've gone to law firm collections.
Well, is that on a credit card that you are a co-signer on?
That was at the time on an account that we were both on. We were both jointly putting our paychecks into.
And so the credit card was in both your names? What credit card was it?
It was actually the main card that he used was a Chase debit card.
Who paid for the rental car? Raise your hand. Who paid for the rental car? You did.
Yes.
Okay. Did you discuss with Miss Lawson paying for the rental car?
I did not.
And she wasn't happy with you loaning the car in the first place?
In the first place, absolutely correct.
And so to add insult to injury, you decided to let her use a joint debit card to rent a car. And you're telling me the last trouble you had with Miss Lawson was in 2013?
Miss Lawson and I have an understanding.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, we understand how our household works with the issues that had taken place prior. We have an understanding that, you know, we're going to continue our relationship and not move backwards. So what that's stating
well,
is...
we're talking about 2015.
Yes.
We're not talking about ancient history here,
That's
sir.
correct.
You said you hadn't had any discord since 2013. Sounds like a lot of discord in 2015.
Actually, we've been really well since we've gotten back together.
Well, when did you get back together?
The end of 2013.
Well, evidently not. You wanted things out of your name?
I did.
You wanted to lend a joint car that she objected to. You did it anyway.
I did.
You used a joint account to pay for a rental car for an old female friend.
I sure did.
And you're telling me that you think that that's healthy for a relationship when you know that your partner is not happy with it?
Well, in my opinion, and the way that I kind of seen it, is I was helping an old friend who needed help, and she knows the type of individual that I am, and I'm going to go out of my way to help people that need help. I've always been that way, regardless of if anybody likes it or not.
You sound like a prince.
I'm not.
A prince. A prince.
Well.
What fees did you accumulate while you had the rental car?
There were some toll roads.
Toll
roads.
Well, why didn't you pay them?
I had my fast track in the window, but I guess if you don't register the plate with the fast track, sometimes they run your plate instead of the fast track. So I didn't know that there was anything that had
What were the fees?
The 91 express lane fees are a total of $442.30 that are in collection. The ones that are not in collection are $242.30. And then the toll road violations are $212.50. Not including, though, on top of that, the Hertz administration fee for the toll roads that they charge us the $30 a piece for 3 of them.
So that's $90.
$90.
$986 in tolls and fines. Anything else?
Still the outstanding rental car fee?
You said that you did it. You were helping a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what she says. You were helping a friend. It was a gift.
No.
What?
Nobody ever said gift. Nobody ever used the word gift.
She did.
Oh,
she
did
did,
she?
and so did you.
No, I never did.
Well, you did when you said to me, I believe in helping out a friend in need.
Absolutely.
Good.
And her and I had a conversation that she would take care of the $840 when I first went to rent the car. Hence the reason why we put it on the card in the first place and why I was willing to deal with Donna when I got home.
Great.
Jadonna Lawson, say Kenneth's former friend, Melissa Stout Corveau, owes for a rental car, toll fees, and a restraining order.
Now, the next part of your complaint deals with a false restraining order. Can I see a copy of the restraining order that you filed?
Here's a copy. There's actually 2 of them. One was for him and one was for her.
Tell me why you filed this restraining order.
January 30th, I'd received a text message on my work line from Miss Lawson that I didn't even know who she was about owing money for toll road fees that I thought I'd already taken care of, as well as for a rental car. When that had happened, the following day, I had received a phone call from the Fontana Police Department accusing me of stealing a garage remote and burglarizing a house. I'm a realtor. I can't have those kinds of issues. And then he asked me about a lawsuit that was filed, and I told him I knew nothing about a lawsuit. 2 hours later, my work had been served with a lawsuit by Miss Lawson, who was slandering me.
Well, what did she say in the lawsuit?
The lawsuit itself, it's the civil lawsuit. It's the civil lawsuit that she served me for Kenneth Hay. The actual lawsuit we're doing today. So that I had known nothing about. And then...
Miss Lawson, where did Mr. Hay tell you the car was during the month that the defendant had the car?
With Melissa.
So you knew her name?
Yes.
She didn't know you. Is that true?
I don't believe so, no.
You don't believe it's true? Do
No.
you remember ever meeting her?
No.
Well, then maybe he didn't tell her.
They were on Facebook together. She knew because we were all over. I mean, our pictures were on Facebook. We were tagged in posts. She knew.
Do you have her text message acknowledging this debt?
I actually have a Facebook message from her acknowledging the debt. Absolutely.
Okay, well, it's clear from this text message that you acknowledge this debt.
I didn't.
And what you say is, he didn't tell me I'd have to pay him back right away. I'm having a very bad time of it. If I knew I had to pay you back right away, I never would have accepted it, as I knew my situation and knew it was not a possibility. And I'm requesting that your girlfriend never contact anyone that I know or me again, as I will be forced to proceed with legal actions against her for harassment. This is not okay. This will affect my livelihood as well as my children's. Is that why you filed the protective order?
That's why I filed a protective order.
So
Correct.
your request for money for filing a false restraining order is denied. The fact that you found out that your live-in was not doing the right thing, to say the least. I don't have to go into it. You know it, I know it, she knows it, and he knows it. But she says she should pay him back. Now, the car rental was how much?
$1,122.64.
Did you pay any of the tolls?
I paid all of them. I added the license plate to my account, so it retroacted and paid everything. Apparently, there was 3 trailing that she had given to my boss as proof that they had gone to collections. I went and added that. I extended it even further for the date, so I actually have them here. And I also paid the admin fees as well.
Well, where does it say it was paid?
That's the only vehicle I had, and that's the only car I have on the account, so I added it that time frame.
Can I see what you have, please, as far as what went into collections for this car?
This is the collections. Then there is also an email and a 91 Express Lane recently, and every one of the toll road violations.
Also, I see you paid one $30 fee from Hertz.
There's 2. That's all that was on there. That when I called them and spoke to them, they told me that's what was owed.
And I'd like to see the Hertz rental car for $11.22.
That's the invoice.
Did you pay any part of this Hertz rental bill?
No.
Anything else? Great. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,038. We're done. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I paid the tolls that I thought I had.
I did offer to help her during her time of need.
A vindictive.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Walker versus Baker step forward.
23-year-old DeMonte Walker is suing his former live-in girlfriend, 22-year-old Alexis Baker, for selling his belongings and making false accusations.
Mr. Walker, you and the defendant lived together. You have a child together.
Correct.
Is that right? And you have another child.
Yes.
How old?
3.
So both children live with you?
Yes.
Okay, and how old is your child?
He is 11 months.
How long had you and the defendant been living together?
We've been living together for about a year and a half.
Did you move into her apartment? Did she move into your apartment? Or did you move into a place together?
At this time, it was her apartment.
How long had you been living in the apartment?
About 4 or 5 months.
And where had you been living prior?
I was living with another relative.
This is what the case is about. You had an argument.
Correct.
The argument was on what date?
February 2nd.
And when you were living in the apartment alone, Miss Baker, how were you paying the rent?
I work.
So you work and you were paying the rent. When he wasn't there, he was living with relatives.
Yes.
You were paying the rent for you and your one child.
Yes.
So you had a fight, and according to your complaint, you left.
Correct.
And when you came back, which was the next day,
Correct.
you found that Miss Baker had disposed of property of yours.
That's correct.
And the property was your TV and Xbox.
Correct.
And that's what you brought to the apartment?
I brought several other items, but those, of course, were the more valuable things.
And Miss Baker says, in response to that, that she took those items to the pawn shop because she needed rent money and she wasn't going to make herself homeless, so she sold your TV and Xbox.
Yes.
You can't do that.
Ex-girlfriend Alexis Baker owes for selling his belongings and making false accusations. Alexis is countersuing for a laptop and harassment.
Go ahead.
The police said that.
I don't care what you don't tell me what the police said. When the police go to law school, they can tell you what you can take advice from them. But you can't take his property out of spite, which is what you did. Because if you were living in the apartment alone and managing the rent yourself because you work, in one day you weren't so desperate as to have to take his property, not your property, his property to the pawn shop and dispose of it. Can't do that.
But it was our property because we lived there together.
I
And
don't
the
care.
TV
If
he actually bought for my son for his birthday.
Like baloney. If he left and took all the furniture, and if he said to me, we lived there together, so it was our furniture, what would you say? He would say, it was my furniture. I bought it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, the law is fair. It is gender neutral. You can't say it's our property because he brought it into our house, therefore it became our property. Just as he couldn't say to me, I took all the furniture, the couch, the bedroom set, the table and chairs because it was our property. I lived there. It was ours. I took it to my new apartment. Would you think that that was ridiculous?
Yeah, but that's how it happened. They let him take my keys and my credit card and said we lived together, so it was his too.
No.
That's not true, Your Honor.
No, because you have a counterclaim. And your counterclaim is for a laptop because you say when he came back to the apartment to get the rest of his things that you hadn't pawned, he took your laptop.
Yes, he did.
Which I did.
Well, just a second. Why isn't it your joint laptop?
Because I bought it specifically for me. It wasn't bought for the house.
Well, just a second. Did he ever use it?
Yes.
Yes. Well, if he ever used it like you watch the TV, then it's your property. Joint. Do you understand?
Yes.
Great. And I think you do understand. So, when did you buy the TV? How much did you pay for it?
I bought the TV in about September. I paid about $400.
Show me.
I actually don't have the receipts with me for the TV, but I do have estimates. I have printouts. On the way here, my one of my suitcases was lost.
Okay, so you bought a TV. What size TV did you buy?
It was a 43-inch TV, LG.
And when you bought it, it went right into the apartment?
Yes.
Is that right?
I brought it home, yes.
How did you get that 43-inch TV to the pawn shop?
My mom helped me.
And what did you get for it?
For the TV and the game, I got $300.
And the Xbox?
The Xbox, I bought that earlier last year, and I paid about $500 for that. It was a limited edition Xbox Halo.
She owes you $500 for the things that she pawned. Now, let's get to the laptop. Did you return the laptop to her?
I did return the laptop.
Did he return the laptop?
Yes.
So you don't have money owed for a laptop taken without permission. Now, you have punitive damages for harassment. You have 2 seconds to tell me about the harassment.
Yes.
Shh, she does.
Oh, sorry.
The day he came to the house after the incident happened, he showed up to the house with a gun. And I felt threatened by that. And I also told the police that I felt threatened by that.
Good.
He was
Let me
mad
ask you
because
this
his
question.
stuff was gone.
Let me ask you this question. He has a license to carry a concealed weapon.
Yes.
And he had the gun in your house for all the time you lived together?
No.
You never saw it?
No.
Really?
Judge Judy continues in a
concealed weapon.
I kept this gun with my at my mother's house. This incident, I had actually just purchased this firearm that was with me, and I had just left the gun range, and it had just so happened to be on my hip at the time. when I had walked into the apartment.
Okay.
But she could not see it. She could not see the gun.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Did you take it out?
I did not take the gun out.
Did he take it out?
He didn't take it out, but he
Fine.
lifted his shirt up so I can see it.
I didn't lift the shirt
Just
up.
a second.
That's a lie.
Did he take it out? Did he point it in your direction? Did he threaten you? You felt threatened. Is that what you said to me?
Yes.
Felt threatened. Oh, okay. You don't get paid for that. You owe him $500 for the things that you sold, and you got your laptop back. What?
Can I just say this before? I just want to mention that the TV was worth $400.
Good.
The
Show
Xbox
me
was
all
$500.
you have to. I don't know what it's worth, sir. All I want you to do is show me the receipts for
Right.
it. You don't have the receipts for it.
receipts.
You don't have the receipts. I'm
Correct.
awarding you $500. Do we
Okay.
understand each other?
I understand.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
So I had the right to sell them.
My items, I purchased them. I put them in the house. You know, so no one should have the right to just take my items like that.
I hope we can just put this behind us and focus on the kids, because that's what's important.
Our children are everything, and, you know, I think that we can work it out and, you know, raise our children.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Fawcett versus Ruger. Step forward.
Caroline Fawcett is suing Summer Ruger for the cost to board and feed her horse. Summer is countersuing for the unpaid balance of the horse.
Miss Ruger, I'm going to start with you. Did you lease or sell your horse to Miss Fawcett?
We were under the understanding.
Not understand. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear understanding. Did you?
It was a lease.
It was a lease.
Month-to-month payments of $100.
For how long?
For 15 months.
How much is the horse worth?
$1,500.
And it was worth $1,500 a year ago.
Yes.
Just show this to the defendant. That's your signed statement. Read the first line of your signed statement.
I sold my horse Expo.
No, say it again slowly.
I sold my horse Expo to the plaintiff Caroline for $1,500 monthly payments.
Correct. That's what you swore to.
Yeah.
Now, so are you changing that now?
No.
So the question is, did you sell your horse to the defendant?
Yes, I sold the horse
To the defendant, and she was, according to you, to make payments on the horse of $100 a month until the horse was paid off.
Yes.
Your complaint says that you leased a horse from her.
That's correct.
She says that her horse was worth $1,500, and you're somebody who's familiar with horses. Why would you lease a horse that's worth $1,500 for $1,500 without being able to own the horse at the end of the year?
It was a lease-to-own purchase.
So now that you two ladies are going to stop playing with me so that I can get over this, because I'm starting to get hungry for lunch.
Judge Judy continues.
Gave you a defective horse. You want to charge her for feeding the horse for the last year and boarding the horse for the last year. You don't get that.
Okay.
Great. And you made one payment of $100, and you sold the horse to her for $1,500, which means she owes you $1,400.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment on the counterclaim for $1,400. We're done. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Only leased the horse, and she didn't want to,
oh my gosh,
keep him or pay for it or anything that the contract said. Because she didn't get away with a lie.
I can't.
Sorry, whatever. I have nothing more to say.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bell versus Rubin. Step forward.
Benjamin Bell III is suing his neighbor, Mark Rubin, for the return of money he paid for a car. Mark is countersuing for the unpaid balance and harassment.
Mr. Bell, how long do you know Mr. Rubin?
Approximately since September of 2015.
And your neighbors?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Okay. And you bought a car from him. You gave him $1,200 in various installments, sort of on a down payment, and you were supposed to pay him the rest in periodic payments. At some point, you returned the car to him. You returned the car to him when?
On 10/12.
And on what date did you make the first payment on the car to him?
9/14 for $800.
And then you made another payment to him?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
When was that?
It was on 9/18 for $400.
Okay, so you had the car for a month, and you returned the car because?
He never showed proof of title at all, a picture, nothing whatsoever, and I refused to continue giving him any payments until he showed title.
Okay, fine. Do you have title? I'd like to see it.
I do, Your Honor. I have
Title, not a request for title. Title.
affidavit in lieu of title notarized.
Who gave you that?
My father's car, he's in a nursing home. And
No, that's not a title.
It's an affidavit in lieu of title, correct?
It's not a title.
Correct.
You don't have title to the car.
Okay.
Now, are you your father's guardian, appointed?
I'm
by
not.
law? Okay, then you have no title to the car. You have no right to sell it. You have to give him back his deposit. And you have the car back. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. Well, when your father can either sign or you become guardian over your father so that you can make a transfer of the car to somebody else, that would be great.
He did that, Your Honor. It's a release
Great,
of
then get the
interest.
title. He doesn't want a car for which he doesn't have a title. And if you can get somebody else to buy it with that piece of paper, that's fine. I wouldn't buy it.
Why would I produce a title, Your Honor, without having been paid?
Why would he pay you without a title? Listen to me. Mr. Rubin, the transaction was complete when he gave you $800 down payment and you gave him possession of the car. The only thing that remained is the periodic payments. If he failed to make the periodic payments, you could sue him for the periodic payments. But if you don't have the title, I mean, you have a counterclaim for the balance of the purchase price, but you don't have a title to sign to give to him. If I granted your counterclaim, you still couldn't give him a title.
Your Honor, in Washington State, I don't need a title. I'm in the automobile business. This
Just
is
a
an
second.
affidavit in lieu of title.
We're not in Washington State, sir. We're in a place where I tell you that you need a title to transfer a car. That's what he's comfortable with, a title. Not some piece of paper that can come back and haunt him at another time. If your father miraculously gets better in the nursing home, you have to give him back his $1,200 and you have possession of the car, so that's my judgment.
What about the rent for the month that he used it?
You did not have the right to sell it to him. We're done.
Perfect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All these are excused and they step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Was he had a pot-growing operation and he needed a reliable car. And
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a horticulturist.
I did him a favor by doing it for him.
He took my money and refused to show me any proof of a title.
And my father, as he says, no good deed goes unpunished.
He said tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow.
Never again.
I have it in storage. My father has it.
Take the cash.
There was something every day. I mean, different every day.
Get the green.
Don't trust anybody nowadays, honestly.
Have a seat.
Miss Dillow, this used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore. And you lived together for a while. He rented an apartment. Your name was the only name on the lease. Two of you broke the lease because there was a third person in the apartment who went to jail. He wasn't paying his rent. You weren't paying the rent. Make a long story short, now the landlord is suing you for breaking the lease, or has at least sent you a letter saying you are the only one that we can go against. You owe us $4,800. You want him to be responsible for half.
Correct.
First, I want you to show me the collections letter from the lawyer. Then I want you to show me your check for your half.
Okay. I have this for that, and I have not paid the other half of the lease because I was responsible for paying for groceries.
No, I don't want to hear
insurance
responsible
and
paying
stuff.
for groceries. In your complaint, you said, I paid half the bill and expect Everett to keep his word and pay the other half. That's what you said in your complaint.
The other half, meaning I paid our insurance.
No. That same month, I received a letter from our landlord billing me for the remainder of the lease, cleanup and repairs totaling $4,800. Everett still swore that he would split the bill with me. I paid half the bill and expected Everett to keep his word and pay the other half. There's no groceries in there. So the answer is you did not pay.
No.
Your half.
Not yet. He hasn't paid his half, so I didn't pay the other half.
He doesn't owe it if you're on the lease. When did you move in?
We moved in January of 2014.
When did you move out?
9/9 of 15.
Why didn't you move out the first?
That's when we turned in our keys and it was official.
Because I see that he's charging you for September's rent.
Yes.
Why is he charging you for September's rent?
Because
you were there until the 9th.
Yes.
Well, why were you there until the 9th?
We worked and we were moving in and out
How old
to
are
his
you?
parents. 21.
Are you her mother?
Yes.
Well, she's not old enough to be on her own.
I know.
And what do you do?
Full-time cook.
Well, tell me why you moved out, Mr. Bias.
Her and my mother originally got into an argument, and she refused to live there any longer. So being in a relationship that we were, I followed her instinct, and we decided to get an apartment together.
Am I asking you one question, you're answering another question? Why did you move out?
Because I wanted to move out.
Why?
I did not want to live with my mother and father anymore.
We're not talking about mother and father, we're talking about this apartment.
Why did we move out? Because I could not pay the rent all by myself. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about another instance. Yes, ma'am.
This apartment. Okay, so you were paying the rent all by yourself?
The other roommate was paying his half, and I was paying our half. He was late on his half most of the time. I was paying all the late fees, all the utilities, and I have evidence for the utilities.
I'd like to take a look at that. And what about Miss Dilla? What was she paying?
As she said before, she was paying for groceries and her insurance, and her mom had taken her to get a car for her to go back and forth to work that was very reliable, but in the long run, the car payment and the insurance was a little too overmuch for her to deal with, as she had money issues and she wasn't ready. So she had to focus all her time and all her work and all her money into what she needed to be able to go back and forth for.
So is what you're telling me she didn't contribute to your half of the rent?
Yes, ma'am.
And your half of the rent was how much?
$300.
For the two of you?
Yes.
So the whole rent was $600?
Yes.
And how many months did you live there?
20 months, give or take. We lived there for a previous year, and then we signed another lease, and that was signed in March, and we moved out in September.
So is what you're telling me, for the 20 months that you lived there, the plaintiff never paid any rent?
No, ma'am.
Is that correct?
That is correct. That is because we went and got the car. That was our agreement. My mother knows the agreement that we had.
No, don't tell me what your mother knows. You tell me.
We had an agreement that I would pay the groceries, the essentials for the house. I also paid for both of our car insurances and my car payment.
You mean his car insurance was on your policy?
Yes.
No. My car was on another insurance policy by itself, and then I later wrecked the car, and I did not have a car, so I was driving her vehicle along with her driving her as well. So we were sharing the car and the insurance. I offered to pay it. She said she has it. I was worried about rent and utilities.
You pay the utilities as well?
Yes, ma'am. Electrics and internet, cable.
I have a bill for the electricity that was not paid.
So during that 20-month period, he paid $6,000 towards the rent. I actually believe what he's saying, that you never covered his car on your insurance, that he had his own insurance, but he totaled his car, and then he used your car, which may have added another driver to your insurance if you, in fact, added another driver to your insurance.
That is incorrect. It was on his policy, and I paid for it.
Well, show me. Show me that you paid for his policy.
I don't have that.
Now, the financial trouble started because the third roommate went to jail?
Originally, there was 3 roommates that we went through. The first one, he moved out. The second one, he didn't want to pay anything. The third one, he went to jail, and he also didn't want to pay anything as well.
Who found these people?
Not me, Your Honor. Not me. They were friends of a friend. It was someone that I helped by. It was a sticky situation. I made the best of what I could make of.
When you moved out of this apartment, where did you go? I'm asking him things because I'm going to get more honest answers from him.
We went back to my mother's house and lived rent-free.
So after you left, you went to your mother's house after you broke this lease. In what month did you go to your mother's house?
September.
And how long did you stay there?
I'm still there.
When did you leave?
I left in January.
So September, October, November, and December, you lived for free also at his mother's house?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at Patheon, which is a factory.
Okay. Now, I want to go back to when you started living in this apartment. I want to start with you. You lived there for 20 months. In the first year, is what you're telling me that she did not contribute to the rent? Okay, but then you decided to renew the lease with her. And you renewed the lease, and she is the only one on the lease. Is there any reason for that?
We tried to get my name put back onto the lease, but we found out that it would cost an additional fee for us to change that, and she agreed not to pay it. So.
Okay, so clearly, if you signed a second lease with
she signed it, I did not.
But you stayed with her.
Yes.
You agreed to stay together.
Yes.
You weren't dissatisfied with the arrangement that she was, in fact, not paying rent, but covering other expenses for the house. Your rent was minimal, and hers would have been $150 a month. Well, if she was buying all the groceries and the food, then she was spending at least $150 a month.
Bare essentials, toilet paper, bologna, cheese, bread, barely $60 a week. Barely.
Well, $60 a week, sir.
It was not enough for 3 people.
Listen to me. $60 a week times 4 is $240. Your whole rent was $300.
Sometimes 380, Your Honor, just because of late fees.
All right. It's clear to me that you did, in fact, have an arrangement whereby you would be paying certain things and she was paying certain things, and they equaled themselves out. Your problem started when you had roommates who didn't take care of their portion of the rent because your arrangement with her was totally different. My next question to you is, did you have a discussion with her about this lease fee, this $4,800 that is being requested by the landlord?
How so?
Did you have a discussion with her when she received that bill?
She said she would take it.
Well, tell me about it.
I paid for the 2 years, and she agreed that she would just take it.
No, not agreed. I want you to tell me where you were when you had this discussion, what you said to her and what she said to you.
We were at the apartment trying to figure out what we were going to do. Our electricity was shut off. We couldn't pay that. We tried to gather the money. We couldn't gather the money for rent. So we just decided that we would just move out and we would deal with it then. And since we lived there for the months that we lived, she would take her half. She would do her half. That was that.
She would do her half. Who was going to do the other half?
Her.
So she was going to do the whole thing?
Yes.
Is that what you say? She would do her? No.
Your Honor,
What?
we had a conversation at his parents' house right before I left, stating that we would split it and that he would pay monthly on it. We both agreed that we would bring money when we had the chance every month to pay it off.
Okay. So Southwind Apartments, am I correct?
Yes.
Gets a check for $2,850. Not you, right? No. Southwind.
Southwind.
Great. No, I believe her. I believe that you had a financial arrangement with her, what she paid for, what you paid for. But now at the end of the day, even though she is physically responsible because her name is on the lease, you lived there for 2 years, you yourself acknowledged that the only reason that you didn't add your name to the lease the second time was that there was an additional fee and that you both didn't want to pay the additional fee. Clearly money was tight. I think that you owe Southwind Apartments half of this, and she's going to have to take care of her half. But this check comes from you in the amount of $2,420. We're done. Thank you.
Why is that excused? You may step out.
For the time that we lived there, I feel like I held up my end of the bargain. I feel like she could hold up hers.
It's extremely frustrating.
It's honestly made it a little bit more, the tension greater.
He got mad at me and refused to even conversate with me.
Before, it was okay, but
After everything, so.
ever since she started hounding me for money, it just made things worse and worse.
Don't do it.
All of us can just get on with our lives and be able to go forward.
The worst thing ever to mix money.
Wish the best.
Mr. Sensoli, it is your claim that the defendant, who was your girlfriend for a period of time, had you falsely arrested for assault.
Correct.
And she had you arrested on what date, sir?
It was the 5th of October.
When was the incident that she's alleging resulted in her assault?
13th.
Same day.
Correct.
And when was that case finally disposed of?
It was October 31st,
Of what year?
2013.
So what took you so long to get here?
I couldn't contact her. I tried and I just couldn't find her.
Well,
I don't know if she was hiding out. I don't know, Your Honor. I tried. She lived with her father and her grandfather and her uncle at the time. And
just in 2013, Miss O'Brien, where was your father living?
Royal Oak, Michigan.
And where were you living in 2013?
I was living there. I did leave for Florida for quite a while. Part of me was running. I was scared of him.
What were you doing in October of 2013? Going to school, working? What were you doing?
I was in between jobs, I think, at that exact point.
At that exact point, in October of 2013?
Right, like when everything actually happened, yeah.
And where were you living in October of 2013?
With my dad.
When did you move from your dad's house? What month and year?
I apologize. I was living in Ohio at that time. I apologize.
In October of 2013, you were living in Ohio?
Correct.
With whom?
An ex-boyfriend.
And where were you living the following summer, 2014,
Florida.
July, August 2014,
Florida.
in Florida? With?
My great aunt and her friend.
Okay, so this case was over, and clearly she moves around a lot. So if you were trying to reach her, you might not have been able to reach her. I don't know. Now, I would like you to tell me, Mr. Sensoli, what happened on October 5th, 2013?
well, I got a call from her. She was breaking up with her boyfriend in Ohio. She gave me a sob story about how much she's changed. She needed a ride. She had to get out of there. You know, I cared for her in the past. She's a good girl when she's not on drugs. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, thought, you know, maybe she can show me that she's changed and better.
Okay.
So I picked her up.
From?
Ohio, outside
To
of
drive
Toledo.
her to where?
We went out to a hotel near Fowlerville in Howell, Michigan, and stayed one night, and she seemed like she was doing better. So the following night, we went back to my house, and that's when it all just started again.
What all started again?
Her drug use, staying up all night,
What kind of drugs does she use?
prescription Adderall.
Did you discuss it with her?
Yes, many times.
What did she say to you?
Give me a chance, I'll show you I'm better. Same thing she's been saying.
For years?
Ever since I've known her, correct.
So tell me about this incident that resulted in your arrest.
Well, we were out of my house. She was there for a few nights, and she didn't sleep. You know, I'd go to bed at night, I'd wake up, she'd still be in the same spot in front of the computer. Like, I would notice that she was snooping around in medicine cabinets, just anything. And finally, I just told her I had enough. Like, you need to go, you need to call your father. I'll drive you to the exit in Fowlerville. Like, you just got to get out of here. I can't handle this anymore. And as I'm driving her there...
Driving her to where?
The exit where we're meeting her father.
Did she call her father?
Yes, her father was on the way out.
Okay, go ahead.
And on the ride there, I just told her again, like, this is it. Like, I'm done with you. Do not contact me again. You haven't changed. You never will. She got upset, started crying. She smacked me. And I told her, you know, you can't do that. I'm calling the police. She had warrants for arrest. As soon as I went to grab my phone...
Just a second. You're talking too fast now.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
The last thing I heard before you started to move quickly was she slapped you.
She smacked me, yes, correct.
Where?
In the face.
And you said?
I'm going to call the police. You cannot...
Do that?
Yes.
What happened next?
Then I grabbed my phone to call the police, and she smacked it out of my hand instantly because she has warrants for her arrest, and she was scared about being in trouble for hitting me.
Warrants for what?
I do not know. I know she still has warrants to this day. She runs from everything she has to do. She never faces up to anything.
You know that, huh?
Shh. So what happened next, sir?
She tried to jump out of my car after that because she was afraid, I'm assuming, that I was going to call the police and she was going to go to jail. Well, as she tried to get out of my car, I slowed down. She got out. She grabbed my phone. She threw it. I had other papers in my car. She threw those too. I got out, picked up my stuff, drove home. As I'm driving home, about maybe 5 minutes later, I get a text saying, you shouldn't hit women. You are But at that point, I figured I need to call the police and let them know what really happened. So I called the police, told them. They said, okay, do you mind if we come out and get your statement? I said, of course. I had nothing to worry about. Well, as soon as I got there, I got arrested instantly when I walked out.
As soon as you got...
As soon as the police came to my house, I walked out to talk to them, and they arrested me right away.
Okay. Can I see the paperwork that you filed with the police, Miss O'Brien?
That I filed?
Yeah.
I don't have... Like, I figured he's suing me. I figured he would get the police report, but he obviously didn't want that to be shown, so...
I have a disposition saying
May I
that.
see it, please?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to go very slowly, Miss O'Brien.
Yes.
I want you to tell me exactly what happened on October 5th, 2013.
Okay. On that date, I'm sorry, I just wanted to tell you that I, first of all, was not the one that contacted him to come give me a ride from Ohio. He contacted me, so I just wanted to let you know that. But on October 5th, we were fighting because he didn't have, I was taking Adderall at the time. He wanted it. He wanted me to give him my prescription medication, which he didn't have a prescription for. I didn't think that was... I didn't want to do that. First of all, I didn't want to get in trouble. That's illegal. Second of all, why would I?
Just tell me what happened on October 5th.
Okay, so we were fighting about that, and he decides, well, I'm going to take you home. This is it, whatever. And we're going to go meet up with my dad.
Did you call your father?
Yeah, we were going to meet him at, the McDonald's down the road. And we get in the car, and he's flipping out on the fact that I won't give him my prescription medication. Flipping out like you've never, I was scared to death. Hunched up in the corner against the car door. And he hits me. Okay, I don't know where any of me slapping him came from, but he hits me. I opened the car door because I was scared. I don't know why I opened the car door. He shoved me out of the car door. He shoved me out. My foot was stuck. He continues to go as my foot's stuck, and I'm being dragged down a gravel road and throws my stuff out of the car. I finally get unstuck, and this couple sees everything that happened, and they come over and they call the cops for me.
Photographs of your injuries? The answer is either yes or no.
I don't have them with me, no.
Do you have any medical reports?
Not with me, no.
Well, where did you think you were coming today?
Honestly, I tried to get the information. I figured that since he was suing me, he would have the police report.
I have the police report, madam.
Oh, okay.
I asked you where your photographs were.
I'm sorry.
Where your photographs were and where your medical records were.
I thought that the photographs would be with the police report and the medical records. They're in archives.
Where are you working now?
It's
not an answer.
Sorry, I just got a new job at Mr. B's downtown Royal Oak. It's a restaurant bar.
When did you start?
I haven't started yet.
So the answer is you're unemployed?
Yes.
I want to know when the last time was that you worked.
A couple weeks ago.
Where?
O'Toole's. It's a bar.
And how long did you work at O'Toole's?
A few months.
How many is a few months? From when to when?
February till June.
What happened to that job?
I had a family incident and I had to take some time off. When I came back, they just didn't have many hours for me. I found a job at Mr. B's. I figured just take the job there.
You have a problem with prescription drugs?
I did. I'll admit I did.
I didn't ask you, did you?
Oh,
no.
No.
I didn't ask, did you? I said, do you?
No.
Now, you called the police. They responded. You said he assaulted you. Were you in touch with the district attorney?
No.
Well, the police asked you for your information, where you live, what your phone number is. You now had your phone back. Why didn't you show up?
Honestly, I was scared.
Really?
I was scared to death. I have many threats from him.
Show
Threat
me.
after
Show me. I really want to see them.
I really wish I had them all together. But
Just a
I'll
second.
find something.
Just a second. This is where you're coming. You're coming to...
Prepared, and I apologize. I honestly was...
You want to show me where you said he constantly threatens you, which is why you were scared, which is why you didn't go to court.
Yeah, I mean, just up until, yesterday I was getting emails from him.
Well, just show me.
All right. These are just, saying how he's going to make me look dumb on TV and all this stuff. I can't find...
Please?
All right, I just feel stupid. I guess I don't have anything available right now.
Your Honor.
What?
I have proof from her, actually. She's not scared of me. She's offering money for me to come see her. Calling me babe and...
I'll admit, obviously, I got myself into this situation because obviously I loved you at some point. Obviously, I kept falling for your games and your tricks and your...
Just a second, this was last month.
Yeah.
How long did you spend in jail?
2 nights, 3 days.
You better start working at that bar. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tirado versus Johnson step forward.
25-year-old Christina Tirado is suing fellow motorist Marcus Johnson Jr. for backing into her car in a parking lot.
This is an automobile accident.
Yes.
It is your claim that the defendant backed into you. Defendant says you hit him. The incident happened on what date?
It was June 1st.
What time?
10 in the morning.
Is your car insured, and was it insured on June the 1st?
Yes.
Is your car insured, and was it insured on June 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you turn this matter into your insurance company?
Yes, I did.
What happened when you turned it into your insurance company?
They told me that I need to file with his insurance because I had a liability. So I went ahead and I filed with his insurance.
And what happened?
They said that they would call me to get an estimate.
Did you get a letter from them?
No, I got nothing from them. I have this little card from them that I got when we went to the insurance place. I had nothing from them, no papers, nothing.
What do you mean when you went to the insurance place?
I had to follow him to the insurance because he had no information with him.
Put your hand down.
Judge Tirado says fellow motorist Marcus Johnson Jr. backed into her car in a parking lot. Marcus claims it was Christina who hit him.
Now, go over there and show me exactly how this accident happened.
All right, so I pulled in, parked, I was dropping off my daughter. I parked next to the defendant and, went in, and right away I could hear his music. Car was rattling, and then dropped off my daughter, came back out, got in the car, reversed, and before I could get it into drive, I saw his lights come on, so I instantly started honking because he started reversing. He didn't hear me because his music was so loud, and he just plowed right into the front of my car and just crunched up the whole hood with his hitch.
Go over there and show me how the accident happened, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Allow.
Just a second. Go back to where you were. Bird, would you show him how to get to where he's supposed to go, please?
You want me to go back to there?
That's absolutely right.
All right. Your Honor, how you doing? On the above day, she was parked right here. I was parked maybe next to her, the car next to her. Wasn't nobody next to us. Well, when we bagged up, she bagged up before I bagged up, and she was in her phone. I bagged up.
Huh? I don't want you. Don't interrupt him.
Oh. Look, I ain't coming to argue with nobody. I bagged out. Now, I might listen to some music. I ain't got no discrepancy about what nobody else doing that cop. I ain't hit nobody. And if I was listening to my music, it had nothing to do with it. Evidently, you didn't see me because you hit me. Look, proof in the pudding. You got your pictures? If I hit you from an angle like you say I hit you, one side of your car be hit. You right, my hitch did because you ran into my hitch. You ran up under my car.
Good.
And you did no evidence.
Can I see pictures of your car?
Oh, yeah,
Can I see
you
pictures
can.
of your car? Mr. Johnson, after this accident happened, you didn't have proof of insurance with you, is that right?
No, ma'am.
So tell me why you took her to your insurance agent.
Because she had no other further method of handling it.
Just a second, did she say she was going to call the police?
No, she asked about
Just
the
a
police.
second.
I said,
Did you say, I'm going to call the police?
Yes, I did. I instantly said, let's call the police, get a police report, and he said, oh, no. And as soon as I mentioned the police, he was ready to leave. He's like, no, you call the police, I'm leaving.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
I want to know how she came to your insurance company.
Because I took her there. I got out the car. I asked her what she wanted to do. She said, I don't know. She said something about the police.
Can I see an estimate for the damage, please?
Yes, I have two.
And it wasn't no meeting.
You're not answering my question.
Judge Judy continues. His fellow motorist, Marcus Johnson Jr., backed into her car at a parking lot. Marcus claims it was Christina who hit him.
Who was your insurance officer?
Jesus.
Jesus?
Yeah. I mean, I took her to Jesus at acceptance. I mean, I did all I could. I probably over-concerned myself with it because I got out. I gave her what information I had. She asked me for something I didn't have. I said, well, come on with me. I had insurance. She asked me for...
yeah, you did. You showed me that you had insurance on that date. With Jesus?
That's crazy, man. Hey.
Stay there.
It doesn't say you have insurance. That says that initially you had insurance from June 1st, 2015 to December 1st, 2015. It doesn't say it was effective on the... What?
Mm-hmm. That's probably the wrong card. It's probably the wrong paper. I don't know, man.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2307.
Jenna versus Meredith. Step forward, please.
Eliza Jenna is suing her sister, Treva Meredith, for collect calls and money loaned while Treva was in jail. She is also suing for the cost of buying clothes for her daughter.
Miss Jenna, the defendant is your sister.
Correct.
And it is your claim that while she was incarcerated and immediately preceding her incarceration, you made a series of loans to her.
Yes.
Some involved taking care of her daughter, and some involved putting money, once she was in fact in jail, in her account so that she would have certain amenities while she was in jail. Now, she says that there was never an agreement for her to pay you back.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you in jail for?
For escape.
Escape from where?
I was put into custody in the courtroom, and I escaped out of the courtroom.
What was the underlying charge that you were in court for?
Forgery.
Had that case been tried?
Yes.
Were you sentenced?
Yes.
To what?
Probation for 5 years.
And you violated probation?
No, ma'am.
Well, then why would you escape if you were sentenced to probation?
They revoked a bond on a different case.
So that you had a case in addition to the forgery?
Yeah, there's cases in 3 different counties. There was.
So you had lots of trouble?
Yes.
You have a drug problem?
I'm recovering.
How old is your daughter?
14 tomorrow.
Who is this?
This is my mother.
Also your mother?
Yes.
All right, Miss Meredith, how much would you say your sister laid out for you while you were in jail?
Not really sure. I was in jail for 10 weeks.
Did you always have money in your account?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Had your mother put in money in your account?
No, ma'am.
Any friends put in money in your account?
No, ma'am.
So the only one sister?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you put in her account?
About $1,200, I believe.
Well, do you have records? You
Yes,
can't say
I do.
that. That's what we're in court for.
Right here are all the records, all the receipts. She had to have some dental work done and to go to the doctor.
Why should she pay that for you?
She had offered to pay it for me before I turned myself in. She offered to help me out while I was in there.
So how are you going to pay her back?
I just now started back to work. I haven't had no income since I've been out of jail.
When did you start working?
I just started working last week.
Where?
I worked through a temp service at a plastic company.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mother, me and my 4-year-old son.
Where's your daughter?
She's in a group home.
Any particular reason?
She was living with her father and there was problems there. So she was put into foster care and then eventually put into the group home.
Well, she came to live with me.
But she went to her dad after that.
She had called and asked if I would take her last January.
I got it. Yeah, she stayed with you for a relatively short time.
The first time, and then the second time she was with me for a few weeks.
Is she a troubled child? Is that why she's in a group home?
Yeah, she needs some extremely intense therapy.
Ms. Meredith, how long have you had a drug problem?
For a lot of years.
When you say you are recovering, are you in a program now?
I might go to counseling, or I'm starting counseling, and I go to NA classes.
How often do you go?
Twice a week, and that's on my own. It's not required through probation or anything. That's strictly on my own.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me, Ms. Jones?
Yeah, I want my sister to know that I care about her and I want her to get better, and that's one of the reasons I brought her. She needs to learn to take responsibility.
She convinced you to turn yourself in?
Yes.
How'd you just walk out of jail?
Kind of ran out of jail.
They passed a law since then. It's called the Meredith Law, and now they shackle all the prisoners when they're convicted.
Well, I'm certain that all of your sisters don't appreciate that.
Well, luckily it's her married name, so we don't have the same name, so.
All right. I wish you good luck. Stick with it.
Thank you.
You know, you have a 14-year-old who probably at some point is going to be in dire straits and in need of some support. And your 4-year-old certainly deserves stability. So
Yes,
if
ma'am.
you've been clean for 8 months, congratulations.
Thank
Stay
you.
with it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,445.
Thank you.
Parties are. Kimberly is countersuing, claiming Alice broke her arm.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Moore versus Kayla.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Whew. Family that certainly does not get along well. Miss Moore, the defendant is your niece.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that she had you falsely arrested for assaulting her last year during the time that your mother was ill and dying.
Yes, ma'am.
You went through a trial recently and were acquitted.
Yes,
found
ma'am.
not guilty. And you're suing her for the false arrest and for the year that you spent facing these charges. The defendant says that the charges were true and that she is counterclaiming for her injuries. Her injuries, I believe, were broken arm.
Yes, ma'am.
When was your mother ill last year?
My mother became ill early in January, but she really got bad in March of, it was 2003.
And when did this incident occur with your niece?
March the 10th, after I flew to Texas to be beside my mother who was dying at her home.
So you tell me your version of what happened, what led up to this incident.
Saturday afternoon, my sister, Brenda, had instructed me to give medication to my mother every 4 hours without stopping. And it put my mother in a very...
What kind of medicine was it?
One was a morphine and the other one was for anxiety.
Did your mother had cancer?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of cancer did she have?
Cancer of the liver.
So the morphine was prescribed to keep her calm.
Yes, ma'am. But on the prescription of the bottle, it says every 4 hours as needed. And my question was, that night she was totally out of it, and my brother he was there that night, and he had to pick my mother up out of the bed because she could not move at all. And we did not give her the medication every 4 hours like my sister had instructed. And I had asked my other sister in the morning about the medication.
So that caused a problem with your niece?
They were all upset because I would not give the medication like that. But anyway, Sunday night, I left and went out to another sister's house to rest. And when I came, that morning on Monday, came back in the afternoon, and I come to the conclusion I couldn't handle seeing my mother's death.
Okay.
Because of my heart condition and my nerves.
Okay, you couldn't handle it. Okay.
And I was talking to my husband on the phone, and I told him he could reach me. I was on the porch, and I told him he could reach me out at my other sister's. Brenda got mad at me, and I don't want to have a consultation with my mother dying.
Why was she angry with you? What was she saying?
She just felt that I was there trying to take over, and she was already had said that she was going to come out there and whip on me on Monday, and I didn't pay any attention to that in a phone call that we had.
Was that over the medication?
Yes.
Is that so far, is that right?
No, ma'am.
Okay, step up. Brenda, what were you angry about?
I wasn't angry with her. I was actually relieved that she was there to help us because we had had 3 months prior of taking care of my mother. Everybody was stressed out. It was a bad time. My sister had called me and she told me that the hospice people had told her not to give my mother the medication except when she needed it. I told her specifically, Alice, when you're there, you do what you need to do. I told her I was calling a meeting with the hospice people on Monday. The whole family would be there. We could all understand. I learned more about death than I ever wanted to know with my mother. And I didn't want to go through this by myself. I wanted my sisters there. I wanted help. Right. So when we asked for a meeting, she said 10 o'clock. My sister couldn't be there. She was so concerned about my mother and the medication, but she couldn't be there to see what the hospice people. We were doing exactly what they said,
Which is medicating her every 4 hours and not letting the pain grab hold of
Right,
her.
Well, and
right.
they
That's
told us-
exactly how they explained it to her,
Right.
to us. You know, when the pain kicks in, this is how she's going to be. Don't let the
Don't
pain
let it get
come.
there.
You know,
Right.
we'd been there with her. We didn't want to let the pain come. Nobody, you know, she was going to die. We knew that. We wanted it to be peaceful.
I got it.
And that was my mother's wish, to die at home.
Kim, tell me what happened in the kitchen on the 10th of March.
Well, I was in the bedroom with my grandmother, and I heard them in the kitchen. And she's telling her, you know, you took her out of the nursing home. You shouldn't have took her out of the nursing home. She's going to die. She's going to bleed. You know, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And they were telling her, then leave. You know, that's fine. If you can't take it,
Put your hand down, Miss
leave.
Moore.
You know. And when I looked outside, she was slapping at my mother. And another one of my aunts stepped in. Well, she grabbed her and she threw her down to the floor.
Threw her
Alice
down.
threw my other aunt down
What's
to
her
the
name?
floor. Her name was Billy.
Go ahead.
And then of course, I had walked in there in the middle of this, and my brother walked in, and she started screaming at my brother. And she was screaming obscenities that you would not believe. And she was, you know, then she started out the door, and my brother went out after her. Well, I went out after him. Then she coming out there, and she's telling me, you know, we need to just call an ambulance for Billy, you know, we need to just go. So I'm going back in the house, and I get the phone to call the police. And as I walk back outside, because I'm hearing screaming now back at the porch. And I'm like, well, I thought she was going to leave. She wasn't leaving. And it's because her daughter over there was telling her, you don't have to leave. They can't make you leave. This is your mama's house. You don't have to leave. You know, her daughter was put in a quarter. And she knows if you push her, she's going to lose it. You know, she has a history of violence and just psychotic behavior. And I look at her and I told her, just go, just get that out of here. You know, that's why I told her, just get that. And I'm pointing at her, and as I'm pointing at her, she grabs this arm. And she pulls her steps between us, and she popped my arm down over her daughter's shoulder. It broke this bone up here into pieces. They had to go in and put a rod. You know, I have a permanent rod in the middle of my bone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was leaving and they attacked me.
Her niece, Kimberly Kayla, had her falsely arrested for an assault. Kimberly says during an argument, Alice broke her arm.
What happened to Billy?
Billy was taken to the hospital also, and she had some sciatic nerve damage in her back.
She was taken to the hospital that day?
Yes. But Billy and I were both taken to the same hospital in the same ambulance.
What hospital?
To Spine Memorial Hospital.
Have a police report for me, please.
Yes.
It's right there.
Okay, Ms. Moore, coming back to you. Now we're going to come to the point in this story where you're going to tell me your version of how her arm got broken.
Well, first of all, there was a consultation in the house, and Brenda held me and Kim, and I have a sworn testimony from the court where my attorney said, and you slapped her, and she said yes. At that time, she hit me.
Just a second. Who slapped you?
Kim hit me in the face with the telephone while my sister held me in the kitchen and would not let me leave.
Let me see the testimony. Oh, well, she says, do you remember slapping Alice? She said, yeah, I told you in the kitchen when she was pulling my hair and we were going back and forth. And you slapped her? Yes.
But, Judge, I could not be pulling her hair.
Just a minute. Don't explain. You have to read me the whole thing, Miss Moore.
Okay.
She didn't just admit slapping you. She said you were pulling her hair and you were going back and forth and she slapped you.
At the time she slapped me, I had my hands restrained by my sister Brenda.
I would like you to tell me how her arm got broken.
Well, from there, I went outside and was leaving. At that time, her brother stopped me from going to the car. He pounced over the porch and pulled his hand back to hit me. And you're looking at a guy, I wouldn't take my eyes off because he lifts weight and he could have killed me. And he said all kinds of things to me as I was trying to leave. My daughter stood in between us to stop it.
Okay, so your daughter got in between you and her brother.
Right.
Okay.
And as I was looking for my granddaughter, Kim.
Just a second. If your daughter got in between the two of you, why didn't you go back to your car?
I was going, but my granddaughter had the keys to my car.
Where were you looking for her?
Right there in front of my mother's house.
Well, you just have to look. How old is your granddaughter? Is she a little teeny girl?
Yes.
How old is she?
I thought she was about 11 or 12. That's what she looks like.
How old?
She just turned 18, Judge.
So she was 16 at the time.
15. She hadn't turned 16 yet.
Not looking for her on the ground, madam. Listen to me. If you're looking for your granddaughter who's outside, and the people who are outside, according to you, your nephew, and your daughter, that's 3 people. That's who you told me were outside, and you were looking for your granddaughter around that area.
And Kim came off the porch, charged off the porch with something and hit me in the face, and I could not see. I put my hands up, and I have pictures of where she hit me in the head, and I couldn't see at that time.
Just a second. Hold on a second. Show me the pictures that you have. I don't see anything wrong with your head now.
I had a goose egg right here.
Not according to the police report.
The police did not come and check me out at all or anything. I went to the hospital, to the emergency room.
Let me see the medical records from the hospital. According to the police report, when they spoke to you, there was nothing wrong with you, except you were complaining of chest pains. That's according to 2 police officers. Listen to me. That's what the police said. You complained of, not a goose egg on your head, not being hit on your head. They took you to the hospital for observation because, listen to me, because of the chest pains. What I want you to do is give me the hospital record.
I don't have that part.
Well, that's what
I could not get that part in time for court today.
Well, that's unfortunate because you've had over a year to get that hospital record. Who are you?
I'm her husband, Your Honor.
Were you there?
I talked to her at 7 o'clock.
He was on the phone when I went in to tell her I was leaving.
She was leaving.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't.
My daughter Frankie was there.
Oh, I believe Frankie was there. You can step up, Frankie. I believe you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
How did your cousin's arm get broken?
By her brother yanking her arms. When she had my mother's head, she grabbed my mother by her left, with her left hand, with Kim's left hand, by her hair, yanked her head over where she's completely bent over. My mother's face is touching the cement. Kim's brother runs from behind Kim and grabs Kim with his arms like this, and he's pulling her, and she's hitting my mother upside the head with the cordless phone in her right hand, and I grab at the phone, and Scott is pulling Kim at both of her arms backwards. No one touched her arms except for her own brother.
Okay, fine. You can sit down. It's very unfortunate when everybody gets stressed out in a situation where...
What was unfortunate?
I'm speaking. It's very unfortunate when people get stressed and angry because somebody who's close to them is dying. And put the picture down, madam. Pay attention to me. The first mistake that you made was not listening. Your mother was dying of liver cancer. The instructions that you were given to give her morphine every 4 hours were the appropriate instructions. I am not a medical person, but unfortunately, I have been in situations where I know that you're not supposed to wait until you are in pain, as needed, when you are dying. You're supposed to keep medicated so that the pain of liver cancer doesn't. So these people were taking care of your mother for months before you got there. And then pay attention, try to get it through. And then you come to the scene and decide, this isn't right. The medication says as needed. I'm not going to give her the medication every 4 hours. And everybody is annoyed at that situation because you're sort of a Johnny-come-lately. They've been there for months taking care of the situation, making decisions without you. They took care of, they were the ones who were up at night, they were the ones who were feeding, and all of a sudden you show up and decide to change the rules. Big mistake. You weren't saving your mother's life, Miss Moore. She was going to die. I'm speaking. She was going to die anyway. The question was she going to die peacefully and not in pain ever? Or whether you were going to try, your method of treatment was let her get a little bit uncomfortable and then we'll give her the medication as needed.
Unfortunately, you made a mistake in your choice. I do not believe your daughter when your daughter says that you were beaten over the head with a phone, because there is nothing in any of the official records, including hospital records, which you had every opportunity to get over the last year and a half, that suggests that when you were admitted to the hospital for your chest pains, they noted bruising and swelling on your head that would be consistent with your being hit over the head repeatedly, according to you, and according to your daughter, with a cell phone. So I do not believe you were falsely charged. And I believe you broke her arm.
Oh, ma'am,
I believe that you... I'm speaking.
I did not. I was leaving and they attacked me.
Okay.
That's
You
all
may
I
have
was
convinced-
doing was leaving.
You may have
And
convinced
they
you,
wouldn't
Miss
let
Moore.
me leave.
You may have...
I didn't care about what medicine they gave Mother. They attacked me. They
attacked-
didn't take my statement. The police didn't let me give a statement. My lawyer will testify to that. Why don't you call her?
Listen to me. I don't want to go any further with this, Miss
And I
Moore,
was
because I'm
found not
speaking.
guilty of all
I'm
of
speaking.
those.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Speak.
I swear I did not.
Listen to me very
Where's
carefully.
the Bible? I took a lie detector's test even, and I did not touch them.
Your
None of them.
case is dismissed. Did you have any unreimbursed medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
What were they? Unreimbursed medical
Well,
bills.
I have $7,000 right here.
Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. Nell versus Campbell.
Thank you,
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
All right, Miss Fennell, this is your old boyfriend.
Correct.
This is, according to your complaint, probably Carlos.
That's Carlos, correct.
New boyfriend.
Old boyfriend also.
Old boyfriend.
Correct.
You don't stand still too long. Who is this?
This is my fiance, Tiffany.
She's just here for moral support?
Mm-hmm.
Because she brought the old boyfriend, you brought the Tiffany.
Right.
Okay. Miss Fennell, according to your complaint, this gentleman, with whom you had a relationship for a while, became annoyed when he found out that you were with Carlos, and he vandalized your car. Mr. Campbell says he was, in fact, annoyed, but he didn't do any damage to your car. When were you and Mr. Campbell involved in a relationship?
We started, actually I met him June of 2003.
When did you and Mr. Campbell terminate your relationship?
November of 2003.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
In March of 2004.
Well, tell me what happened in March of 2004.
Carlos had come to visit me at Ohio University.
Carlos?
Carlos had come to visit
How long had you been dating Carlos?
I started dating him in December of 2003, very soon after ending the relationship with Clifton. So he had come to visit me at the university, and we just come in from a movie. It may have been about 1:30 in the morning. This was March 13th. I hear this banging on my door, and so, you know, it was kind of unusual.
Were you in a dorm room?
Yes, I am in a dorm room, or I was then. And so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so, you know, I'm not expecting anybody. So I go to the peephole, and I see that it's him. Like, we've had history in our relationships of just different violence and him threatening me and stuff like that. And so prior to him coming, he had been trying to call me, and I wasn't answering the phone. So he had been leaving messages on my voicemail, just threatening.
I mean, he just decided to come out of the blue? He hadn't been in touch with him, really? Since November of 2003, all of a sudden in March of 2004, he shows up?
We've been in contact sporadically, not very much. He was just calling. We kept in contact via email.
But you hadn't been dating?
We hadn't been dating.
Anyway, comes, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, bangs at the door. You don't answer the door. What happens next?
Carlos is there. Carlos wants to answer the door, and he and Cliff had just a few words. It wasn't a big episode like I thought it would be. And afterwards, he
Did you say anything to Mr. Campbell?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What happened next?
Once he left the dorm room, I went to my dorm window because I know what he's capable of. And so when I looked out the window, I saw him kicking my car and walking away.
Did you call the police?
I did.
That same day?
That same evening.
Do you have a police report?
I do.
I see it, please.
Some pictures.
What kind of sneakers are you wearing?
Lugs.
Lugs?
Yes.
Is that who makes them, Lugs?
Yes.
Is that what you usually wear?
Yes.
Oh. All right, Mr. Campbell, let me hear what you have to say, sir.
For one, we were not just boyfriend, girlfriend. That was my fiance. We had got engaged on March 9th
Tell me about that, Mr. Campbell.
Well, basically, I had came to Ohio University on March 9th, I remember, because that's my little brother's birthday. I had proposed to Tamar. She had said yes.
Did you give her a ring?
Yes.
Does she still have the ring, or did you take it back?
No, I didn't take it back. I'm not sure if she still has it or not.
What kind of ring did you buy her?
Ring with, like, I don't know how many carats, the diamonds in it.
How much did you pay for it?
It was like $1,700.
And you didn't ask for it back?
No.
Did he give you a ring?
He gave me a ring, but...
When?
I don't believe it was March 9th. I think it was the week before then, the last week in February. He did give me a ring.
So that you were still not only communicating with Mr. Campbell on the internet by email, but just a few weeks before, you had actually seen him.
We weren't seeing each other.
You had actually seen him, I said.
I had seen him, yes.
How long did you stay when you came to visit her, Mr. Campbell?
I had spent the night with her March 9th, and I left on March 10th.
So when you came back on March 13th, because she wasn't answering her phone, and
Well, she did answer the phone.
Oh, she did?
One time.
And what did she say?
I heard a guy in the back, which I presume was probably whatever his name is.
Carlos.
Carlos. She just wasn't acting herself. Normally, she's real uppity and giddy when we're talking on the phone. And it sounded like she was trying to hide something and was rushing me off the phone.
So you became
suspicious.
And you got in the car, and how long a drive is it to the school?
It's about 3.5 to 4 hours.
And while you were driving, did you try to call her again?
Yes.
How many times?
Probably 4 or 5.
So by the time you got there, you were really pretty annoyed.
I was...
Sure, just so far you've been honest with me. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
So far you've been together, and you've been honest.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you're going to get away with denting her car. I want you to trust me on this, Mr. Campbell. But I like the fact that you've been honest, so I'm not going to stomp on your head. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Very good. Now, second ex-boyfriend answers the door, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
What do you do?
First, I'm just dumbfounded. It's like, this is my fiance, and this dude is answering the door trying to look like he was all tough or something.
So what do you think was going on there? You think he was delivering a vacuum cleaner?
Not at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I know you were telling...
Claims ex-fiancé Clifton Campbell kicked her car. She had a new boyfriend. Clifton is denying the charge.
So what did you do?
Well, basically, me and him had a few words, and then I was just like, F it, y'all can have each other, and I left.
But when you left, you kicked her car.
No, I didn't.
Well, maybe you were just so angry you don't remember, Mr. Campbell.
Maybe he was also angry.
He was.
That was her boyfriend?
No. You know why, sir? Because the two of them called the police together immediately after you left. And the police went downstairs and looked at her car, which was very dirty. But the one thing that they did find were fresh sneaker prints on the car. Reeboks and dents where the footprint went into the door. Now, quite frankly, I can understand you being really annoyed. She clearly doesn't make up her mind well, but she's entitled to play the field if she wants to. Not entitled to going around breaking people's hearts. That's really unkind.
I would like to explain if I can.
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing that he did say was that was my boyfriend, and Cliff was aware that Carlos and I were dating.
She told me it was some dumb dude she get money from. That's all she told me about him.
Oh, no, I never said that.
Okay. So?
When we broke up, it was on these crazy terms. I had been through just a lot of things with him, as far as him threatening my life, different situations where he held me at knife point, just a lot of violent situations where I felt like if I was going to ever have a situation that was going to be calm with Cliff, I pretty much had to tell him what he wanted to hear.
She's lying.
She's lying, Mr. Campbell. She's lying because she didn't tell me all of this stuff when it was her turn. And she says a lot of things in here, that she witnessed you stab somebody during spring break. She witnessed you burn down somebody's home, which is why she knew that you were violent and she wasn't going to subject herself to that. She didn't play it nicely.
I don't think I'll be out right now if I stab somebody and burn down their home.
Listen to me. Mr. Campbell, I think that you were pretty fortunate that you have a new fiancé. You get along pretty well together?
We get along great.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Right now, telemarketing.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
You planning on getting married?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. Miss Fennell, what year car do you have?
94.
1994 what?
Honda Accord EX.
And did you get an estimate on taking out the dents?
I did.
Let me take a look at the picture. I see a dent near a door. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can pull out the dents in that car. The paint isn't off.
The paint's off.
Car's 10 years old. Is it just off in that spot?
Excuse me, Judge.
It's only in that spot.
She told me one night around Christmas that she had got drunk and got in a wreck and dented her car up.
Listen to me. The police noted the damage on March 13th, sir. I'm not believing her. I'm saying the police noted the damage.
I understand that.
Oh,
but if she
good.
was messing with two different guys at the time, how do I know it was in a third or a fourth that got off and did that
Just
to
a
her
second.
car?
You don't have to. Only I have to know, Mr. Campbell. And there may have been somebody else that gave her car a good clop. But so did you, on your way out.
No, I didn't.
I'm telling you that I believe that you did. You had the
I
opportunity, you had the inclination, and you certainly, Mr. Campbell, had the motive.
But I didn't.
Don't say it again. There's only one person who gets the last word in. That's me. Do you understand? Only me. I know you're a telemarketer, but only I get the last word. You know the people that say, goodbye, don't call me again? That's me.
Tamara Fennell claims ex-fiancé Clifton Campbell kicked her car after discovering she had a new boyfriend. Clifton is denying the charge.
You get a ding doctor to pull out the dings that he did on your now almost 12-year-old car, not for $1,700, which is more than the car is worth, but for $500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Don't play with people's hearts, Miss Fennell. Sometimes you're going to get burned. This time it was just your car. Next time it may be another part of you. That's
Parties
all.
are excused. You may step out.
I believe it was when she heard that I...
Lampa versus Fout. Step forward.
23-year-old Mindy Lampa is suing her former friend, 23-year-old Gary Fout, for an unpaid loan. Mindy claims Gary promised to repay the loan with his tax refund, but never did.
Miss Lampa, Mr. Fout was a friend of yours, and according to what I've read, you've known him for about 4 years.
Correct.
Are you an accountant by trade?
No.
But you do your own income tax and you do income tax for other people?
Correct.
This past year, Mr. Fout asked you to do his taxes, according to your complaint.
Correct.
And you agreed for a small fee.
Right.
So far, are we correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were entitled to a refund?
Yes, ma'am.
Of how much, sir?
$28.60 or something like that.
Is that right?
$28.81.
And you wanted that refund right away?
Yeah.
And what did you tell him, Miss Lampa?
I told him that if he agreed to give me the refund, give me the money back once the refund was posted, that I would give him the loan as long as he agreed to it. He said he would, so I wrote him the check.
So far, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you do his taxes?
February 13th, the week of the February 13th.
And when did you give him the check?
I wrote him the check on February 16th.
And when did you cash the check, Mr. Fout?
It was deposited maybe this next day.
Yeah. You did get the refund back.
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't give her the money.
No.
And the reason that you didn't give her the money is because, A, you say that she told your mother, and she shouldn't have done that.
Correct.
And B, she doesn't need the money anyway. Shh. Please.
That wasn't the case, no.
Well, that's what you say in your answer.
Well, the reason was she had started calling me about a week.
Just a second. I just want to make sure I had both of your reasons, both of your defenses.
Okay.
One, you say that the plaintiff told your mother.
Correct.
And the second thing was, I don't know why she is so hard up for this money. She lives expense-free with my father-in-law.
Correct.
So my first question is, how do you know this idiot?
He used to be a coworker with me.
Okay. You got 10 seconds to explain to me why she isn't entitled to this judgment.
She called me about a week after she gave me the check, saying, I want the money, I want the money. I hadn't had the refund yet.
When did you get the refund?
It was about...
That's very easy to figure out, sir.
It was 7 or 8 weeks afterwards, I believe.
I do have a copy of the
I'd like
status.
to see it.
It was posted about 6 weeks after.
March 11th. So it's February 17th. So it was less than a month later that you got the check. I'm speaking. Sorry. It was less than a month later.
Okay.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you got the check, March 11th, why didn't you give her the money?
She called me about a week after she gave me the check, her check, saying, I need it. Told her it hadn't deposited yet. She said she was going to call my mother and tell her to give it to her, and then I would pay her back. I told her, I said, if you call my mother, I'm not paying you, period. I don't want my mother involved. This is between me and you. In the story. You call her, I'm not paying.
You can't make, listen to me. You cannot unilaterally modify a contract. You know what that means? No, didn't think you did. You can't say to her, if you do thus and such, I'm not going to pay you back. Now, she agreed.
Yes,
Just a second. Are you telling me, Mr. Fout, that when you said to her, if you call my mother, I'm not going to pay you back, she said to you, fine. If I call your mother, you won't have to pay me back? Is that what you're telling me?
Not in that many words. What she said was, that's fine, then I will not call her.
I never said that.
She did. Created problems with me and my mother.
That's too bad.
Well, the problem was,
Your Honor, I waited a week.
you know, in her world, her adopted father is her everything, and he jumps when she tells her to. My mother and me don't do that, and I did not want her to cause problems between me and my mother, which she did, when I only see my mother maybe every 2 weeks. Cause problems because she had to run like a child and tell her.
Mr. Fout, there's only one child in this room. Unfortunately, I have a sense that this young lady, who's your girlfriend, right? Wife.
After 6 months of dating.
Relax.
Excuse you.
You've been with how many people?
Don't speak to her. Baby. You want to speak to her? You speak to her outside when you're handing her your check. But in here, you only talk to me.
Yes, ma'am.
One child in here, and that's a child that doesn't pay their debts. Somebody who is a friend of yours. A friend of yours.
We weren't friends at the time.
Listen to me, Mr. Fout.
Yes, ma'am.
If you weren't friendly with her at the time, why do you think a stranger would say to you, you want your money now so that you can have instant gratification? I'll give you the money, interest-free, because I have so much money, it's not going to make any difference to me. Do you know anybody like that?
No.
No, of course not. I mean, did you actually think you were going to come here today and walk away unscathed? Well, no. You acted like a child.
No, the problem
She chose to marry a child. That's her problem.
No,
when you owe somebody money, when you make a contract, you pay your bills, Mr. Fout.
And then
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,800.
In the matter of Ikuzi versus Pottle. Parties have been
Thank
sworn.
you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Ikuzi, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, my pronoun is he. I made that clear. My name is Lee, and my pronoun is he. And
I didn't see that. I have Lisa.
Yeah, also known as Lee Ikuzi.
Okay.
I'm a trans.
It is your claim that the defendant assaulted you, Mr. Ikuzi, and the defendant says that quite the contrary, it was you who assaulted him. How do you know each other?
I met Dean Pottle when I was the Portland International Hostel manager, and I was in charge of the facilities at the time, and I also lived there. Dean came to my residence at the hostel looking for work. He was actually homeless at the time, and I took him in.
All right, so that's how you met him.
Yep.
When did this alleged assault take place?
April 2nd, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances, please.
I had a business transaction with Dean Pottle that failed. He was supposed to do a plumbing job for me in exchange for me mowing a lawn for him. I also had $1,000 worth of oil paintings in his house that we were going to exchange for him to do plumbing services. I went over to his house 2 times. Both times I brought my witness, and on the second time I was assaulted.
Tell me how you were assaulted.
I brought my friend Buddy. There was a driveway that separated Buddy, Dean, and myself. I was leaning back on the car that was separated about 4 feet of driveway to Dean's house. Dean was arguing with Buddy. I told Dean that I was going to tell everybody that he's bisexual, and he ran 2 big full steps. Pushed his arm, swung me around into the car.
Just a minute. You went very quickly.
Yes.
You said you ran 2 steps?
No. I was leaning against the car here, and there was Dean's house.
Just a second. First, you threatened to tell people that he was a bisexual?
Right, because he harassed me.
How was he harassing you when you came to his house?
I was at his house to collect money in my oil paintings.
I didn't hear how he was harassing you.
He harassed me 3 days before, and I was still upset about the incident. And
how did he harass you 3 days before?
I was at his house. I was massaging his hands. He went into the bathroom to take off his shirt to massage his shoulders. He came out butt naked and asked me to play with his...
So then why would you go back to his house?
Well, I brought a witness with me because I had $1,000 worth of paintings that
Did you get your paintings?
The second time that I arrived at the defendant's house, I did get my paintings.
And what I'm asking you is, why did you have any exchange with him at all if you had your paintings?
Within the hour of the assault, at the beginning of the assault, I came in, brought a friend, asked him to go get my paintings, which I needed.
So we went and got your paintings?
Right. While I was getting my paintings, Dean came outside.
Just a second. Your paintings are in the car? If all 3 of you were there...
Paintings are in the car.
So now they're in the car.
Right.
Why aren't you in the car leaving?
Because he owes me more money. He owes me money.
Untrue.
He owes money from doing a plumbing job that he refuses to pay me. So I'm asking for my money. He refuses to pay me.
Put your hand down, please.
He refuses to pay me. And we have a verbal exchange. We've been friends for 7 years. I was really upset at what he did to me. I'm going through this transition. I felt he was taking advantage of me.
Keep going.
And words were exchanged. He walked 2 steps up to me and pushed me into a car. I swung back and got him off me. And
when you swung back, you hit him.
Well, he was on top of me. He was on top of me. He pushed me into a car, and he was on top of me.
How was he on top of you?
I have fingerprints. He pushed me like this, and he was on top of me right here when he pushed me. I leaned back, and I hit him.
I only defended myself.
Let me hear what happened, sir.
Well, when I followed him out with the paintings, and the car was out on the street, and I stood back at my driveway, probably 20 feet away from the car. When he went toward the car to put the paintings in the street, she came out of the vehicle and came toward me. Now, she was nowhere near a vehicle. Now, she came toward me very aggressively and yelling profanities and everything else, so I instinctively put my hand out to defend myself. And when she came close to me, I went like this and said, "Get out of Portland," because I felt she didn't belong in our environment there. And I turned to look at him, and he says, "Oh, you touched her first." And when I looked back, she went, bam, like this, right against my lip here. And I staggered back, yelled at me, and that's when she left.
First of all, sit up. Second of all, don't speak until I speak to you. Okay. Do you have a photograph of your injury?
No, I don't.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
I have documentation of medical records.
I'd like to see it, please. Now you can step up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Buddy Bercu.
Spell your last name.
B-E-R-C-U. It's Romanian.
Left hand, left arm,
Kind of
Bruce.
difficult the first time. Anyway.
All right, now I ask questions.
Yes, go ahead.
I ask questions.
Please.
The paintings are in the car.
Okay, the paintings are in the car. I come back. He comes out, and the car is parked right by the driveway.
Who's in the car?
No one's in the car. They're both arguing with each other, and I'm like, okay, let them vent a little bit and get some of this out, because
Just a second.
I
Where
don't want to
were they
intervene.
as you were putting the paint? I'm speaking. You're not paying attention
When they
to
were
me.
putting the paintings were already in the car, you said.
Listen to me.
Okay,
Listen. Try
I'm trying.
putting on your listening ears.
I will.
You're putting the paintings in the car,
That's correct.
and he's letting you take the paintings.
That's correct.
Now, the last of the paintings is in the car, right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you both get in the car and leave?
Because, Your Honor, this isn't about that. It's about the disrespect and the way that the abuse had gone down in the first place, and he had not
You're
said he
talking
was
about
sorry.
this incident 3 days before that Lee has just described to me.
Apparently, Lee hadn't worked through the whole incident yet, Your Honor.
Then he was angry.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Got it. See how easy it is to get to the truth?
Can I give you some more truth, or do you want?
Can I get to the truth? Absolutely. Can you give me some more bald facts, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, ma'am.
determine what the truth is.
I understand that.
You understand?
You're the judge.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection?
His former friend Dean Pottle assaulted him. Dean claims he was only protecting himself.
Okay. So far we have somebody who wanted their paintings, made 3 trips, got the paintings, but according to you and your Lee's witness, Lee wasn't finished being angry about something that happened 3 days before and wanted an apology.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I got it.
And then what happened was he said, instead of, "I have a restraining order on you," or "get out of my property," he said, "get out of Portland," which I thought was a little bit wide of a swath for his powers. I mean, Portland's a big
Yes.
place. And then he approached, what he did was he just said, basically, "Get out of Portland, get out of Portland." And the third "get out of Portland," he, rushed like he was doing a shot put. And just the whole body, everything came through, but not upward, but straight, like a thrust, and hit. And I could see that she grimaced in pain, and she was crying out. And then what happened simply is a counterattack just to save face. Because I would imagine transitioning to become a man, you have to prove to other men you're a man. So that's why I stayed away from this up until this point. I didn't feel there was any danger up to that point where I had to intervene. I got some heat for that. Say, well, I should have just kicked his, I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I don't think violence solves anything. And at any rate, what happened was he said, "You can't hit me," or "You can't hit me, I'll kill you," or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Something to that effect. Just was really surprised that Lee would counterattack. And then I just stepped in and said, "Look, you hit Lee first." And just kind of diffuse him.
Did you see his bloody lip?
No, he had no bloody lip. There's no... It was... The hand, she was like this, because, it was not a closed fist. And I never use a fist, because you could not close it.
I'm not asking just whether you use a fist.
But I'm just saying, You can hurt your hands.
Okay. I'm not interested in whether you use a fist or not. It's not particularly relevant here.
I want you to stop. You don't even make any fool of yourself. I want you to stop.
Shh.
I apologize.
You're killing me.
When was the first time that you were prescribed Vicodin?
I've had an ongoing neck and condition.
Right, I see that. So you had all kinds of problems that you were prescribed Vicodin for and all kinds of other pain medication.
Right.
Listen, you both behaved badly. You're not supposed to hit her. She's not supposed to come onto your property aggressively, which is exactly what she did. You're not supposed to push her. You're not supposed to punch him. It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection? Either one of you?
I'm going to get one from both of them.
Well, that's a very, very good idea, sir.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, get one for me, too. That's all. Mrs. Abarca, this is a pretty nasty case. According to your complaint, the defendant is the former husband of your best friend.
Yes.
What's your former wife's name?
Stacy.
Stacy. And they have 2 children. And you were providing daycare in your home for their 2 children.
Correct.
And subsequent to their separation, you took care of the children for how long?
Approximately 9 months, from August of 2004 until April 1st of 2005.
And then it is your claim that Mr. Finch, without cause, removed the children from your daycare. He did, in fact, give you 2 weeks' notice and paid you, according to what I've read here, for the 2 weeks' notice.
Yes. That's
correct. But your claim is that Mr. Finch knew that he had an obligation to keep the children there, so you want him to pay for daycare for how long?
I just want him to pay for daycare up until the date that their mother gave me the 2 weeks' notice, because she was the only one that was able to make the daycare decision per their court order.
Just shh. Don't. Okay. On what date did she give you the 2 weeks' notice?
I believe it was May 12th.
Okay. So let's deal with that part of the complaint first.
Okay.
You'll get into the incident because there's much more to this case than these few weeks. When Mr. Finch gave you the 2 weeks' notice on April 1st and tendered payment for those 2 weeks, did you take his payment?
Yes.
So then let us deal with this issue swiftly.
Okay.
You're entitled to nothing. If you said to Mr. Finch, I'm not taking your money, it is my friend who is responsible for giving me the 2 weeks' notice, not you, I would go on with that part of your lawsuit. Mm-hmm. But since you took his money, I'm not entertaining any money for April or 2 weeks in May. Now let's move on to the next part of your claim. The next part of your claim is that there was an incident on or about April 1st involving your husband and the defendant. And as a result of that, Mr. Finch called the state licensing board and made false allegations against you. Mr. Finch said what he reported to the state licensing board was true, correct?
That's correct.
The counterclaim that I have by Mr. Finch is that you called Child Protective Services complaining about Mr. Finch and alleging that he in some way inappropriately touched one or both of his children. That's the allegation.
Right.
So, did you in fact call Child Protective Services?
I did.
On what date?
April 4th.
And what did you tell them in this 4-4 report?
I told them that his oldest daughter, Kiana, for the last month and a half, had been reacting extremely badly when he would come to pick her up. She would start crying hysterically. She would run to the back around anybody, my children, my husband, myself, that she could get to.
Is that what you told the state so far?
Yes.
What else did you tell them?
And I told them that I felt that there was something going on at the house. I didn't know what, but I know that somebody needed to investigate it. When I did make that phone call, Stacy was right beside me, in full agreement with me calling, because for several weeks before...
Don't tell me about Stacy.
Okay. For several weeks before, I had spoken to Stacy and Matt about Kiana's behavior. It would be so bad at times that he would come to pick up both of the girls and have to leave with just Lexi, the little one, and leave Kiana at my home until her mother or her stepfather could come and pick her up because she wouldn't go with him.
Doesn't. Shh. Okay.
So I confronted Stacy about what was going on and told her that I was very uncomfortable with the way that Kiana was reacting and that I was very concerned that something was happening over at his house.
No, she doesn't include that.
This revelation, Ms. Abarca, that you had to call and make a substantive report to Child Protective Services did not occur until after Mr. Finch removed the children from your daycare. Is that correct?
Yes and no.
Yeah. The first time that you called and made a substantive report, despite what you say you had been seeing for the last month and a half, is 3 days after he removed the children from your daycare.
Yes.
There's certain hard data, and then there's certain soft data. Your conversations with your friend Stacy is soft data. The timing of these events is hard data. which in my view very often suggests that you can make a leap with regard to things like motive. You get me?
Yes.
Good. Now, did you subsequently go to the family court with regard to her allegations of abuse?
Yes, I did.
And was there a hearing?
There was a hearing.
And subsequent to the hearing, was your time with your children diminished, supervised, increased?
Stayed the same. We were sent to family court counseling after that.
Who was?
Me and my ex-wife.
Just the two of you?
Correct.
And did you both go to counseling?
I requested private mediation. I figured 1 hour with the family court services was not efficient time to handle this situation, and therefore I was granted time to get a private mediation.
And as a result of the mediation, what happened?
My time was increased.
To what?
To 50%.
It had been previous to that, how much?
It was only 37% time.
Subsequent to the call to Child Protective Services, was your daughter subjected to a physical examination?
Yes, both daughters were. And I do have the report here.
Can I see it,
Would you like
please?
to see it? For both daughters.
Their mother requested it when she took them for those exams. It wasn't
CPS
court ordered.
requested
It wasn't court ordered or anything through CPS. Stacy called and made those appointments.
Listen to me, madam. What you're giving me is hearsay. The objective data is you made a report. As a result of that report, and subsequent to that report, these children were subjected to physical examinations. That was precipitated by your call. And if their mother had seen signs that she felt were untoward, she could have taken the children without your call to Child Protective Services. Your call to Child Protective Services inspired this action.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He had called me and let me know he was coming to get them.
As I do every day.
Listen, if you interrupt again, well for you. Do you understand?
Continue.
Don't speak to her!
Abarca says former client Matthew Finch pulled his kids out of her daycare without notice. Matthew is countersuing, claiming Lori made a false CPS report.
Now I want to know what happened April 1st.
Okay. April 1st, Matt calls me probably around 5 o'clock, letting me know that he's on his way to pick up the girls.
And how many days a week had he picked up the children?
He picked them up at least 85% of the 9 months that they were with me, because their mother would work nights and evenings and stuff like that.
How old are your children?
They're 6 and 8 now.
So now he came to pick up the children on April 1st.
He had called me and let me know he was coming to get them. And
as I do every day.
Listen, if you interrupt again, it's not going to go well for you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So far, you don't feel as if I'm favoring her, do you?
Not at all.
Then keep your mouth shut until I look at you and ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Go.
His phone call was that he wanted to change his payment dates on the way over. I said, no, we're not going to change them. They're in a contract. You've signed it. This is the way that it's been for 9 months. And he got very angry.
Just a second. Did he tell you why he wanted to change his payment dates?
No, he didn't.
Okay. And you said, no, you can't.
Right.
If your friend Stacy had called and said, I'd like to change the payment date, what would you have answered her?
I would have talked to her about it.
Right.
Which is what I tried to do with Matt.
No, that's not what you said. You said absolutely not.
Okay.
That's what you just told me.
Well,
I'm just
right.
repeating your words.
Well, no, actually, he called me and told me he wanted to change the payment dates.
And you told me you said absolutely not. You have a contract.
And I said to him, well, your payment's due today. And he then told me that he wasn't going to pay me when he came to pick up the girls and got angry and started yelling at me. And I said to him, you know what, Matt, you have a contract with me. These are the same dates you've always made payment.
Continue.
Don't speak to her! And it's not your job to tell her to continue. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You keep saying, yes, ma'am. Is there something wrong with you? Do you have problem controlling yourself?
Not at all.
Well, it seems to me you do. Go ahead.
He got very hostile with me on the phone, yelling and screaming.
No,
so
you
I
were
said,
hostile.
Well, no.
You were hostile.
It was a reaction to him.
You know what the big mistake was?
What's that?
The big mistake was choosing you as a daycare provider. When you have a best friend who is divorcing her husband and there are bad feelings that exist between the two people, to have someone as a child care provider who is aligned with one of the parents is a monumental mistake. Monumental. Because you are emotionally invested in his ex-wife and her welfare, not emotionally invested in his welfare, and that comes through loud and clear. Having said that, we will move on. So he came to pick up the children, and what happened, Ms. Abarco, when he came to pick up the children?
When he came to pick up the kids, my husband went outside to go talk to him because we'd had many, many incidences with his youngest daughter, Lexi, being physically abusive to our son. And it was just...
This is the husband?
This is my husband.
What was he doing home?
He was already done working for the day.
What kind of work does he do?
He's a forklift mechanic for Toyota.
Let me understand this, Ms. Abarca. You sent him outside.
No.
You said you were inside with the girls, so your husband went outside to speak to him.
Right.
Well, you must have, when you got off the phone, said to your husband, he's coming over and he says he's not going to pay me. Got to discuss that with him. And you have to discuss with him his daughter's aggressive behavior right?
Yes, I spoke to him about the phone call with Matt and about the incident we had just had with Lexi and Cole on Matt's way over to come and pick up the girls.
Well, why don't you tell me about the incident between your son, who was how old?
At that time, he was 18 months old.
And the daughter, who was how old?
Lexi was 5.5.
So why don't you tell me about that incident?
I believe on that day, she pushed him down. She would pull his hair and pull him down. You know, just different little things like that that were constant. And I sat down with Lexi, and I said, you know, Lexi, we've been having a lot of problems with this kind of behavior. What is wrong? Why is it that you and Cole can't seem to get along? What can we do to change it? And she says to me that her father told her that if there's something she wants or Cole does something that she doesn't like, then she can basically take matters into her own hand. If she needs to push him away from her or do something like that, that's what he told her. The 8-year-old daughter, Kiana, was there as well. Kiana confirmed that was the discussion that they had in their vehicle, and also stated that there was a boy she was having problems with at school, and Matt told her that if he continued to bother her, she could go ahead and punch him.
Where were you when this was going on with the 5-year-old and your 18-month-old?
I was in my dining room.
And where were they?
They were in my living room, which there's a huge opening.
Shh. That's not supposed to happen. It's your responsibility if the 5-year-old pushes down the 18-month-old. It's your responsibility because you are providing inadequate supervision of the children. I don't care whether you agree or not.
Children are children.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And a 5-year-old may push down an 18-month-old, and an 18-month-old may pull a 5-year-old's hair.
Right.
Or may take something away, and the 5-year-old says you can't do that.
Absolutely.
You just answered your own question.
Lori Abarca claims former client Matthew Finch owes for daycare fees, defamation of character, and a false police report.
Stand up. All right. Mr. Abarca, you tell me what you said to Mr. Finch when you went outside.
I walked up to Mr. Finch.
Look at me. You walked up to Mr. Finch and said...
He was still in his vehicle. I explained to him...
No, tell me what you said.
I said, Matt, there was a situation with the 2 kids. Lexi approached Cole, grabbed the ball from him, pushed it back into his chest, and then grabbed him by his hair and pulled him to the ground. When Lori confronted Lexi about it, Lexi explained that if she felt somebody was picking on her, it would be all right for her to go ahead and do something back, retaliate.
Okay. So your wife said to you that the little girl said, my daddy says that somebody is picking on me, then I have the right to do something back to them. Correct?
Correct.
And what did Mr. Finch say to you?
He got out of his car, said he never said that, got into my face. I explained to him, would you please not allow Lexi to retaliate, that if she has a problem, she needs to go to Lori. I don't appreciate our baby being pulled down to the ground by his hair, and that conduct is not okay.
Mrs. Abarca, I have 11 grandchildren. I've seen them all playing around together.
Right.
If one of them, who's 5, gets annoyed at one of them, who's 2, because they pulled something out of their hand, they'll push them. That's not cause for World War III.
No, you're right.
That just
I agree.
happens.
I agree, but it was much more severe than that. And I have statements that I've written to Matt for suspensions, breaking down the situations. I believe I gave you copies of all of those.
Why did you give them to Matt instead of Stacy?
Because Matt was the one that came and picked up the children most of all the time.
Ms. Abarca, this was your best friend's children.
Right.
Are you telling me that you didn't get on the phone in the evening after each of these instances and say to Stacy, listen, Stacy, we really have to talk about the girls.
Absolutely.
I'm having trouble with the girls.
Yes.
And what did Stacy tell you?
That she was in full agreement with everything I had. They knew Lexi was having aggression problems. She was getting in trouble at school almost, and they knew that it was something that they needed to work with.
So that's what, just a second, so that's what your best friend told you?
Right.
So what did she do from the time you started to tell her about the problems with the girls and the time that he finally removed the children from your daycare? What had your friend Stacy done?
Lexi would get in trouble for various different instances. She would go home and be grounded, that kind of thing.
I'm asking you whether her mother ever took her to a therapy session, whether took her to a counselor. Just give me a yes or a no.
Matt refused to let her go to counseling.
Just a second. Just give me a yes or a no.
Well, it's kind of a gray area because she wanted to take him to counseling and Matt refused.
You should never have cared for these children. Never in a million years should you have been involved with these 2 children with the attitude that you have towards him. In any event,
you called the state and reported what you considered his aggressive moves toward you.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
You had every right to do that.
Exactly.
He did it on April 4th, 3.5 days afterwards, and after he saw Stacey at court filing papers.
Are
That's
they
when he
open
went
on the
down.
weekend?
Just a second. Are you asking me a question?
No, they're not.
Are you asking me a question?
They're open on Friday.
You too. You should never have cared for these children.
I agree. I've definitely
I never have
learned my
gotten
lesson.
him involved in taking your complaint outside to him, complaint that just happened to have been made at the same exact time that you had just had a telephone altercation with him about payment. Sit down. I'm not aggrieved at all by Mr. Finch's conduct in reporting your husband's conduct to the state and letting them come out and take a look at what's going on in your house, because based upon what you told me, there is inadequate supervision of children.
They didn't.
I'm speaking in your home, based upon what you just told me. What really burns me is your motivation for calling Child Protective Services about this father. That's what really burns me, because it was clear to me from reading the timeline in this, your motivation. You chose not to report the problems with the child generally. You chose to identify Mr. Finch as the possible perpetrator of a problem.
That's not, I told them the entire situation.
I want to tell you something, Miss Albaka. I don't believe you. And the reason I don't believe you is Stacey still your best friend?
Stacey and I are
Ah,
yes.
That's why I don't believe you, because you would not have called Child Protective Services on your best friend. There is a difference between him calling the state, and the worst thing that can happen to you is you could be investigated, and they might not give you a license to care for children in your house. And you calling Child Protective Services and by innuendo suggesting something inappropriate's going on. It was very subtle. And I've seen and heard over the course of 35 years that subtle innuendo that suggests that a father is in some way inappropriately touching his children, which causes all kinds of red lights to go on with Child Protective Services. And your motivations were just that, judgment on the counterclaim for $5,000. That's all.
98 on the calendar in the matter of Hiller versus King. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Hiller, you used to be married to Mr. King. You have one child together, is that right?
Yeah.
Child is now 6?
7.
7. Sometime last year, Mr. King was enjoying visitation with his daughter, and she had an accident and broke her leg. And you stayed home to take care of her. You weren't working at the time, having lost your job about a week before this accident. You claimed that you asked Mr. King to give you extra money for the purposes of having somebody come to the house and watch your daughter while you went out to look for a job, and he refused. So you want your husband to compensate you for the time you spent home taking care of your daughter.
Correct.
Doesn't that sound ridiculous to you?
No, there's a little bit more to this story.
Well, that's the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that during the period of this visitation, there was an accident when she broke her leg. How did it happen, Mr. King?
She had to use the restroom, and she had a friend over. And typically, she waits a little too long sometimes. And she was in a hurry to get to the restroom. She was wearing socks, brand new, sparkly socks, really slippery. And she was running across the tile floor with her friend in chase behind her. And when she rounded the corner, she slipped and fell. And she's been told, Kyle, you know.
Whatever. It's an accident. Now, Ms. Hiller, is there anything that you know that suggests that this is not the way your daughter broke her leg? After all, she was 6 years old, so I'm sure you asked her. And she said she was running and she fell. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
But the story's changed. Now, I heard that she...
Now, just don't look at him. Look at me.
Okay. I heard that she was running on the tile in the kitchen, playing with her friend, and he was in the bathroom. My daughter
What difference does it make?
Because
I mean, you're not suggesting that Mr. King caused the injury, that it was anything other than an accident.
I'm sure it was an accident.
Right. Now, has your daughter ever been to an emergency room other than this incident?
No.
Has she ever seen the doctor on an emergency basis?
No.
Has she ever gotten a very bad cold or sore throat?
No.
Nothing. So she is a miraculous 7-year-old who has never been ill.
She's very healthy.
I didn't ask you if she was very healthy or not. I had a whole bunch of children, and they were always sick. Children go to school, they get sick. They go to nursery school, they get sick. They play with their friends, they fall down, they need a stitch, they break an arm, or they sprain a wrist. That's what happens with children. That's not his fault. That's an accident. Now, why do you think that he should compensate you for taking care of your own child?
Because I had actually just lost my job. She had broken her leg on a Sunday, and I had lost my job on that Friday. So it had only been literally a couple of days. I got a phone call from him on that Sunday, which was the 5th of December, saying that it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I don't care. You have to understand something. I don't care about that. I don't care about the call and she broke her leg and I didn't take her to the doctor right away. It doesn't make any difference to me. He's her father. Accidents happen. She broke her leg. You're her mother. You're her primary custodian. You stayed home and took care of her. Aside from the fact you weren't working. I want to know under what theory you believe that your former husband should compensate you for taking care of your own child.
I was unable to collect any sort of money at that time. I had no way to work because I didn't have anybody to watch my daughter. She was in a cast for almost 6 months.
So what does that have to do with him?
She was out of school for about 4 of it.
What does that have to do with him?
He wouldn't watch her. I would ask him to come over.
Just a second. Is it true that you wouldn't watch your daughter?
No, I tried to see her. I actually tried to take her for regular visitation, and she wouldn't allow me to. Because she said she couldn't use her crutches. She didn't want her out of the house on her cast. Numerous other excuses, but I was denied the right to see her.
Ms. Hiller, is that true?
That's not true.
You mean he asked you to come and pick her up, and you said you can come and pick her up, and he didn't?
He wouldn't. I would ask him, I said, can you please come over?
Not come over.
Oh, no, no. Yeah.
No. I'm not talking about coming over to your house. I'm talking about coming, picking up his daughter, and taking her to his house.
He wouldn't. He actually had the opportunity once. He was going to come once because it took a while for her to actually not be sedated because she was heavily sedated because of the severity of the break. I have a copy of the x-ray if you'd like to see it.
I would not. Are you telling me that a 6-year-old child was heavily sedated for more than a day or two?
It was probably about 3 weeks. She was on codeine.
I don't know what kind of a doctor you used giving a 6-year-old on codeine. In any event, Ms. Hiller, your former husband says that the reason you're here, the reason that you decided to sue him after all of this time, is because you had made a request. And that request was to send your daughter to live with some relatives for 10 months while you went back to school. Did you ask him to permit you and to amend your agreement and the court order of visitation to allow your daughter to go and live with relatives?
She was going to stay there for 2 months.
Stay where for 2 months?
St. Louis, Missouri. That's where my mother and father live, who she goes and visits every summer.
You asked your former husband if she could go to St. Louis. During what months?
It was the months of September, October, November.
Where was she going to go to school?
My family was going to put her in school out there.
And he said no?
He said yes at first, and then he said no.
I never said yes. No way.
Mr. King, I have a sense that Ms. Hiller has a problem with truth-telling.
You have a good sense, Your Honor.
That's totally incorrect.
Ms. Hiller, he shouldn't even be asked if he will give up his daughter for 3 months for your convenience. That shouldn't be something that you should even consider. If you want to go to school, if you want to go on vacation, if you want to go trekking all over the world, you say to him, would you like, what's your daughter's name?
Ashlyn.
Ashlyn to come to live with you for the next 3 months or 6 months?
That.
Quiet.
Sorry.
I would like you to take Ashlyn for 3 months or 6 months because I want to go back to school. Whatever reason it was that you were going to send her to visit, to live, not visit, live with your parents. Because once she goes to live with your parents and they enroll her in school, that's not a visit. Did you ask Mr. King if he would be willing to take his daughter while you go back to school?
No.
Why not?
Because he's neglectful.
He is not neglectful, madam. You don't have a choice. If you want to send your daughter to live elsewhere, the first person who has the right to have custody of her is her father. Somebody that you picked, you married, and you chose to have a child with. And if you don't like that, that's too bad. But he's not a second-class citizen. If you want to go back to school, she goes to live with her father, not your parents 1,000 miles away. That's outrageous. And after he said no is when you filed this lawsuit. Outrageous. And I suggest that you not go to family court to seek permission for you to relocate your daughter, because Mr. King is going to get a copy of this tape, and your motivations are going to be quite clear.
But those are not my motivations.
You have no right to send your daughter to live with your parents to go to school when she has a parent here. If you are unwilling and unable to take care of her, then she goes to live with her father, not your parents, not your sister, not your cousin, not your aunt, not your godmother. She goes to live with her father, who says, I'm more than willing to take care of her if you don't want her in your custody.
I just feel he doesn't take care of her.
That's not your decision to make. You chose him as a mate, and you chose him as a father of your child. And I don't believe you when you say your daughter has never been sick, because she would be the only child in creation who has not had an ear infection, a bad cold, a fever. The only one that I know of. I have 5 children, 11 grandchildren. All of them have been sick. And I got news for you. They have wonderful parents, at least as good as you. So when you say she's very healthy, never been sick, I don't believe you.
she's had the flu.
Oh.
But she's never been to the doctor because of an
Well, if you
accident
didn't take, just
other
a
than
second,
leg.
if you didn't take her to the doctor and she had the flu, you're a neglectful parent. Because if flu, you have a big fever. Then you call the doctor and you check it, and if you didn't, you're neglectful. See how easy that is? You don't think you're a neglectful parent, do you? He's not neglectful because his child broke a leg while visiting with him. It was an accident. Get over it. And if you can't take care of her because you want to go to school, you have to say to her father, I can't manage her and my school. Will you take her while I'm in school? And if you choose not to do that, then she stays with you. But you don't retaliate by bringing a lawsuit against him. That's outrageous.
But I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I had asked him for money earlier. I had asked him to help me with daycare.
You didn't bring the lawsuit until after he said, I'm not consenting to your sending her to St. Louis.
We had made other arrangements.
Just a second. Okay. You have no right to ask him that. You have no right to be angry at him when he says no. This child has two parents, a mother and a father. And the Supreme Court of every state in this country says that you have no greater right to custody, unless a court says so, than her father does. He is not a second-class person. And you better think about that. Maternal grandparents don't have a greater right to custody than a child's father. Did you ever go to a hospital when you were a child?
I did.
For what? For what?
I think I put something up my nose.
You put something up your nose. Where were you when you put something up your nose?
I was with my mother.
Your mother. Did they take you away from her and make you a ward of estate?
No.
It was an accident, right?
Yeah, I actually
was she not,
put it
just
up
a
my
second.
nose.
Was she watching you carefully? Was she supervising you? If she wasn't supervising you adequately, maybe you should have gone to live with somebody else. Maybe your grandparents. It was an accident. Do you understand?
Xin chào tất cả mọi người. Đến với video ngày hôm nay, mình sẽ hướng dẫn cho mọi người móc một em mochi có họa tiết hình quả dưa hấu như thế này. Đầu tiên, mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người móc phần mặt của em mochi dưa hấu. Mọi người sẽ móc cho mình một vòng tròn ma thuật với 6 mũi đơn. Sau đó mọi người kéo lên, kết hàng cho mình. Và hàng số 2, mọi người sẽ móc cho mình 6 mũi tăng. Đó là phần sau hàng móc số 2. Và bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người móc hàng móc số 3. Và mọi người sẽ móc cho mình với công thức là 1x và 1 tăng. Sau đó mọi người, mình đã móc xong hàng móc số 3 và bây giờ mình sẽ móc hàng móc số 4. Và công thức của hàng số 4 sẽ là 1x, 1 tăng và 1x. Rồi mình đã hoàn thành xong hàm móc số 4 và bây giờ mình sẽ móc hàm móc số 5 và ở hàm móc số 5 mọi người sẽ móc cho mình với công thức đó là 3x và một tăng. Rồi, mình đã hướng dẫn cho mọi người hoàn thành xong được hàm móc số 5 như thế này.